Well, greetings, everyone. It is Thursday night, and once again, as usual, it is time for the Sports Crib, home of the Sports Crib Network. Well, I see Dimitri's here. I'm pretty sure Bill and some of the other guys will be in here pretty soon. And Dimitri, how's it doing up there in Detroit, my man?
How you doing, Mr. King? Everything is good. We got. I see you have my Lions on the agenda tonight. I'm happy about that. And we got work going on with the Pistons, rebuilding, tearing everything down. So, fun times for Detroit sports.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about them Pistons too. I do. Well, we get ahead of ourselves, so let's get down to business here because man. I wish
I know it's coming.
I wish Frank was here. We
need Bill too.
Yeah, well, Bill's here.
We all talked up the Big Ten.
Bill is here.
Oh, great.
Bill is here. He decided that he wanted little jalapeno peppers on the side of his crow. We'll be talking about that. I know, unfortunately, Clint had some things that he had to do tonight, but I'm hoping we can get some of these other guys in tonight. But man, after all of the hype, we gave the Big Ten more hype last week than the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, well, there's two things, and I before, because there was no interconference play, everyone's saying the Big Ten's great because we saw them playing against the Big Ten, which we already told ourselves that they were great.
Yeah,
we weren't basing it on anything else other than seeing how they looked against each other. So that's what you had because you didn't have all those. Think of all those pre-conference play tournaments that you normally would have. You get to see what happens. Then you get to have the regular season where there's interconference play. None of that happened. So all the conferences were all their own little silos. And it's funny because remember, you made us pick like 8-9s. It's like, no, there's going to be plenty of upsets, but there won't be 8-9s. But you won't let me talk about them. So I was about to predict a bunch of upsets, and you didn't let me.
I love how that works.
Yeah.
If I can quote Malcolm X in a non-February time. I got hoodwinked. I got bamboozled. I got led astray. The Big Ten okie doke me. The Big Ten run them up. The Big Ten okie doke me. They really, to be honest, they okie doke me. I fell for a hook, line, and sinker. I'm not even going to offer up any excuses. Nothing. I mean, Bill did nail it. We only saw them against each other, and the league looked really good. But we did not have a sample size of Big Ten teams playing against us, so we didn't know. But I will say this. I said all along, there are two teams that are better than everybody else. And then the rest of this falls into place. I said to you, when that Monday night comes, I would be shocked if it's not Baylor Gonzaga. I've said that all along. Those two teams are better than everybody else. One offensively, one defensively. And I still say those two teams will be there. But the Big Ten let us down.
There's a lot of number 11s hanging around here. I was looking at the questions that I put up here. I'm like, 11 versus who? 11 versus who? I mean, there's no. I think there's two number 2s left. Two number. So if you want to talk about a year of the Cinderella, this could very well be it. So let's kind of talk about some of these matchups here. And Dimitri, let's start with you. Your number 1 Gonzaga against number 5 Creighton.
I think it'll be interesting for 8, maybe 12 minutes. Because I do believe in, and even now, this is great. This is what this tournament does. This is why this tournament is one of the greatest things ever because of this. But the saying the cream rises to the top is legit because it's legit. And when this is said and done, and there's always upsets. Oral Roberts, that's a beautiful story. I mean, the amount of money that university has gotten, I'm thrilled for them. Like even Abilene Christian millions of dollars that are going to help kids. The kids are going to enroll at that school now. Kids are going to get educations because of this basketball tournament. So people can say what they want about sports and all kinds of different things. Ask people at Loyola, ask people at Oral Roberts, ask people at Abilene Christian how they feel about the NCAA tournament and the people that missed those checks last year. This is great. This is fantastic. UCLA shouldn't be there. Michigan State led them by 5 with 90 seconds left, but I'm not talking about that. So Gonzaga is still a really deep, strong offensive basketball team that's well coached, and they have experienced players. Baylor still plays the best defense of anybody left on this board. I think the Michigan-Florida State game is going to be good. I think that's going to be a good game.
We're going to talk about it.
Yeah. But there's some great stories here too. I mean, and quietly, don't sleep on Alabama. Don't sleep on Alabama. I think they're better than I gave them credit for. But I think that Oral Roberts is a cute story. Loyola's cute story. When we get to a week from Monday, you know, we're going to be talking about the names we've been talking about, in my opinion, still. But if it doesn't happen, that's great. That's great. If there's a Villanova, 85, I'm sure Bill will help me out. 85 Villanova. Yeah. If there's an 85 Villanova in there somewhere, I don't know who it is. I mean, I don't think it's UCLA. I watched Michigan State outplay them for, a bulk of that game. Maybe Syracuse.
Well, we're going to talk about that because there's a 6-7 game there, USC versus Oregon, and everybody had also, kind of tossed the Pac-10 out of the window too. Now let's see. We got USC.
Partially because of the nose attack 12 now.
Right, we're still calling the Pac-10. That's probably why I'm bad.
I'm going to call you old, James. You got to start calling the Pac-12.
That's a classic James. That's a great James King moment right there. That's a James King the third moment. That's what we're calling it.
Hey man, where's Reggie Bush? He's coming off. Okay, so you got Gonzaga in the first one, undoubtedly. So USC Oregon, give us a winner.
You can take that, Bill. I went on for a while.
No.
You took me.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry. I misunderstood the platform, Mr. King. All right. You want winners every game. Obviously, I got Gonzaga. I like Oregon in the second game. They are playing confident and they're shooting well. And shooting can carry you in this game, in this tournament. Much as it pains me, I like Michigan. Even without. No. Okay. One at a time.
Two at a time.
Two at a time. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think USC Oregon's a good matchup. They've seen each other before. I like USC. I can't remember the kid's name. They have one kid in particular I really like. I think Oregon's a better team. Both, exactly. So he could get hot and one player could single-handedly carry you. You know how I feel about Gonzaga. They're complete. They're experienced. They're deep. They're the best offensive team in college basketball and they have been since early November or whenever the season started. So I'd like Oregon as a unit, but USC will have the best player on the floor. So I'm not saying that's an easy choice. There's a reason it's a 6-7. I do like Oregon though.
Yeah. Actually, Gonzaga has been number one since last year's tournament. Really
technical, you're right. Yeah.
Bill, these first two games, Gonzaga versus Creighton and USC versus Oregon.
Yeah, we're going to agree on the first one. I mean, Gonzaga is just a cut above everyone except Baylor, in my mind. I mean, there's just a difference between them and everybody else. I'm going to differ on the second game. And I like Oregon as well, but I think they're getting hurt on the boards. Do they have amongst their first 7 players off the bench, is anybody over 6'6"? I mean, it looks like Oregon reminds me, and here's my U of I guess, pedigree sneaking out, but they remind me of the old Flying Illini of Lou Hentz's Flying Illini, where everybody was 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". That's their whole team too. They get trips, score, spacing, they dribble. Everybody can handle the ball well. They can all shoot. But boy, if anybody ever misses, they're not getting any rebounds. Yeah. That's the only thing that concerns me. USC has size, and they have the only superstar on the floor in that game.
Yeah.
Now, Oregon's got good players, but they don't have a single superstar. Evan Mobley's a superstar.
Yes.
And if he shows up and does superstar things, they're sending the Ducks home.
Exactly.
Okay, let's see. We might as well get to this other number one that's still left here. Michigan, another Big 10 team that's still might look like they might be the cream of the crop here, but we talked about Illinois too. So, but anyway, Bill, I want these two are for you. Number one, Michigan against number 4, Florida State. And another one of those sneaky number 11 teams, UCLA versus Alabama.
The first was the easier. Now, I think Florida State's going to make it hard because, once again, they have length and just athletes all over the place. But when these games break down into half court and decision making, those check marks all go to Michigan. Michigan's the team that is going to be the tougher nut to crack if it's a tight game late and you've got to execute in the half court. So I'm going to have to go with Michigan there. And once again, they have a lot of talent as well. Like, it's not like they don't have freaks as well. And then for Alabama and Creighton, I mean, I love the Creighton story. I think all of us do. And Creighton's got players. I mean,
Alabama's playing UCLA.
Oh, sorry, UCLA.
Yeah,
sorry,
UCLA.
Right. I said that explains it. There we go. I don't dislike UCLA. In fact, I like UCLA, but I just don't see them beating. I mean, the Tide, they aren't quite Nolan Richardson's 40 minutes of hell, but they're maybe the best defensive squad left, or certainly one of the best left. And I just don't see them being able to cope with that. I like watching Johnny Juzang, who is a fun player, and if they win, it's probably because of him. And they've been super efficient. But I just think that their super efficiency and him looking like a star comes to an end against this really tough Alabama Crimson Tide defense. Feels like I'm talking football, but yes, the Tide have a really tough defense. It's super intense, and I think it's going to be enough to take the Bruins out.
All right, Demetrius.
So we're going to agree. I think it is difficult for someone who bleeds green and white to ever say positive things about the school from Ann Arbor, but they are well coached. I still think his coaching is underrated. I liked him as Juwan Howard as a Fab Five member. He was the one I really liked. He is coaching. He is putting on a coaching clinic throughout this pandemic, and the way he's had these kids prepared and the way they're playing all the way down their lineup. So I think that Bill brought up a great point. Florida has length. That concerns me. That will give them trouble, but they've got a freshman big that when he wants to be, can be dominant. But Michigan has talent at every position, and they're very well coached. So I like them in this matchup. Alabama is if a two can be quietly a sleeper. I like if a two can be a quiet sleeper. I really like Alabama. I think Petty and Shackelford, they've got players at the wing, like wings that can play. And so Alabama is, I think, I watched UCLA obviously 1 week ago tonight when I was wearing my green and white shirt. If they play like they played against Michigan State a week ago tonight, they're going to get run off the floor by Alabama. Because another point, I like to piggyback on Bill often. It's great when Bill goes first because he kind of tees me up. But then sometimes I want to make sure people know I have my own original thoughts. Right. Bill and I just happen to think a lot alike. I don't just get on here.
You have great ideas. That's natural.
I don't just get on here and piggyback on everything Bill says. But rebounding can control a game, and Alabama rebounds. Just like you mentioned in the other game, Alabama rebounds the basketball. So what that does is you have to play well. Because if you don't play well, we're not giving you second chances. You have to shoot well because we're only giving you one shot, right? Yep. And so that puts this mental pressure in a basketball game where we gotta make shots. Because if we miss, they're getting the rebound and we're in trouble. Because Alabama also plays very good transition basketball. So they have two really good guards, which in the tournament can dictate play, and they rebound the basketball well. So I like Alabama a lot.
Okay. And I think we got another one of those number 11s here. Syracuse. Wow. Last time, was wow. See, now I'm going. Was
Melo.
Okay, see, I was thinking, I'm like, damn, was this? Should I say Melo or should I say Derek Coleman? I know it's one of these guys.
You go back to the Roddy Cycling days.
Yeah, Melo would have been what, 03-ish? Yeah.
So anyway, Syracuse, kind of winners of their bracket, you might say, because no one really saw this coming, but it was a rather tight. Well, it wasn't the hardest bracket. I'll put it like that. But number 11 Syracuse versus another number 2 Houston. Wow, where's Akeem? Where's Fly Slammer Jammer coming through the door? Where? Oh no, that's
glory days.
Hi,
Slammer.
You want to start that one off, Dimitri?
As much as I would like to let Bill start so I can piggyback off all his great points, I am going to say Houston is again a team that rebounds the basketball well, and that really does dictate the game. Now, if Little Boeheim does what he did before, you got a shot. If Buddy's putting in 30 and you got Gerard, you got a shot. I don't know that he can shoot like that every game. Can you? If you can, great. You got a great story. Dinner's going to be good at home. Dad's going to be happy and all that. I'm not sure Buddy Boeheim can keep doing what he's done so far because he's going to start seeing real defense. I mean, Houston has on-the-ball defenders now, and I think that I've never been a fan of the zone. I've never been a fan of the zone, but it works. The dude has a gazillion wins. He's in the Hall of Fame, so I have to temper what I say about it. I just don't respect it. But Houston has real on-the-ball defenders, and so they're gonna see some things they haven't seen. I like Joseph Girard a lot, but I like Houston in the game because I think that when you, like I said earlier, I'm repeating myself a little bit. When you defend and rebound, you force the other team to have to play well, and we can say what we want. Kelvin Sampson should have never been fired in Indiana. He should still be the coach in Indiana right now. That's how I feel about that. And I don't know the specifics of all that stuff, but I know Quentin Grimes can play. I know he poured in 32 in the one game I watched from beginning to end earlier this year. So they got guys that can score, but what they really do, as Kelvin Sampson teams tend to do, is they defend and they rebound. And I'm from the Tom Izzo school of college basketball. I like teams that defend and rebound.
And the two teams that I know nobody put in their team, number 8, Loyola Chicago. You mentioned them once before, versus number 12, Oregon State.
I think I would like to sit here and act like I know a lot about Oregon State. I can pull up stats and read them, but I just don't know. I watched half of their last game. And again, when the team comes into the tournament and brings like their best effort, they just play really, really well. They can win on a given day. You got to do that 6 times to cut the nets down, though, right? And this Loyola team is, again, they're deep and they're senior. They're old for college basketball old. Those teams tend to play well. At some point, talent will rise. I don't know that it's Oregon State. I actually like Loyola. I actually like Loyola to win this game. And I think that they're a team. They're the epitome of a team. And I like them to do it again. Now, the truck runs into a brick wall, I think, on the second game. But for this matchup, I think that'll be an entertaining game, by the way, from what I saw of Oregon State. But I think Loyola wins this game also.
Yeah, well, no, it is number 8 against number 12. But, numbers hasn't meant a whole lot in this tournament. Bill, which one? Where do you want to go first? You want to go Syracuse, Houston, or Loyola, Oregon State?
Okay, I'll start with Loyola, Oregon State. Oregon State has been a weird team to watch. So I only watched them before the tournament, I think twice, and they were bad. They looked bad. Right. I saw them drop a game to Wyoming, and they looked awful. And then in February I saw them lose to Portland, and they looked putrid. This is the most, of all the teams we talked about, The one that I saw looked the worst. I saw Michigan get blown up by Illinois, but they didn't look as bad as Oregon State did when I saw them. So this is a different team. I don't know how else to put it. Like, these are not the same guys I saw before. Ethan Thompson is playing like 1,000 times better than I saw him play earlier in the year. And sophomore Jared Lucas, who looked like he had talent and ability, but like he didn't know what to do with it, has something figured out something. He's gone from being a guy that every time he shot a three, he'd be like, no! Now he's shooting, I think like 42% in the tournament from three. All that being said, though, I think that's all about to come to an end. I think that they're about to run into, I won't say a buzzsaw exactly, more like an anaconda. Like, it's not pieces, but to be slowly crushed. That's a super, you're talking about coaching mattering. This is a super well-coached team.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Porter Moser is a coach, capital C coach. He can coach him up, man. Loyola has, I don't know to keep him, but Loyola has, I think, one of the top 10 coaches in college basketball. I said it. They've got some players, too. Like, I don't want to make it sound like he's out there just, puppet mastering, but they have the ability, once again, you said defensive rebounding. I guess this is about to continue. Yeah. They are crisp, like they execute cleanly on both ends, offense and defense. They did things to Illinois. I thought somebody would do eventually, Illinois, but not them, right? I mean, their ability to just disrupt your offense is uncanny. And no offense to Oregon State, but Illinois is a better team than Oregon State. And they handled Illinois. I'll be shocked if this, once again, as you said, it might be close for a little while, but I think once Oregon State gets down by about 8 points or 9 points, or like close to 10, some bad thing's going to happen, and then the wins go out of the field, and then it might turn into a bit of a rout. I hope I'm wrong. Yeah. And then I guess we're going in reverse order now. So the other game is what was the other one?
Syracuse.
Thank you. Okay, so Syracuse is another team that has revolutionized itself since earlier in the season. Not to the extent of Oregon State. They didn't look awful before, but they looked pedestrian when I saw them before. And normally I would have seen some of these teams a bunch of times. I've seen most of these teams 2 or 3 times. So I'm not an expert, but their 3-point shooting was not good earlier in the season. And it's gotten way better once again. So like Oregon State, suddenly, but here's the problem. People shoot 29.3 from 3 against Houston. I don't see them being able to shoot 15 points higher, because that's what they need to win. They need to shoot somewhere 44s, right? 40, somewhere around that, at least to beat them. And it's cool seeing coach's kid go out, because usually we think of coach's kid, we think gritty, grinder, whatever. Yeah. So it's kind of cool seeing a coach's kid who's got a little sauce in his game.
Exactly.
Being, just a guy who's, just diving on the floor all the time. Like Pat Knight did at Indiana and things like that. But the defense and rebounding, wow, God, such a record. But here it is again. Yep. Houston rebounds like nobody's. They might be the best rebounding team, probably are the best rebounding team left in the tournament.
Yep. And
they play maybe not the best defense, but in the top 3 in terms of defense. So that's a bad combination for Syracuse. And yes, Syracuse has the 2-3 zone, and they've got Buddy Boeheim, but I don't think those 2 things will be enough.
Right. Yeah. I agree.
Well, a team, Oral Roberts. I'm probably the only one here that even knows who the hell Oral Roberts is.
I know who the late Oral Roberts was.
Right, the man.
Just like I do. Right. So, in fact, he was the inspiration for Jerry Falwell starting Liberty.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if you could have a college, so could I.
Exactly.
Okay, Bill. I'm going, Dimitri. I'm going to give you, your wish to piggyback this time. So, Bill, number 15 can't get much lower than that. I mean, there isn't a 16 left. So,
yep.
Number 15, Oral Roberts against number 3 Arkansas, right. And number 1 Baylor against number 5 Villanova. Any order you wish.
First, let me say that Oral Roberts should never been a 15 seed.
Right.
It makes me feel like people haven't watched enough of some of these teams.
Yep.
This is a team that should have been more like a 9 seed. This is not a 15 seed.
Yeah.
This is insane that they were a 15 seed. Let me just get that out of the way. And they have 2 really good players. And Max Aramis is a really good basketball player. Like, I'm glad that the world is finding a chance to see him. He's an NBA type player. I mean, not a star maybe at the NBA level, but he's going to be on somebody's team. And he's going to be maybe like your 9th or 8th guy off the bench.
Yep.
Openor is a guy that, you know, maybe makes the league, maybe bounces around other parts of the world. But they've got 2 guys who should be playing professionally somewhere. Yep. So that gives you a chance. But they don't play great defense. I mean, defense, that's not what they're good at.
Exactly.
They get into some shootouts.
They're going to score. Yeah.
I don't think that's going to work out for them at this point.
Right.
A lot would have to go. A lot would have to happen. And once again, they have 2 really good players, a superstar and a really good player. And that can sometimes be enough. We've seen that be enough when Kansas won with Danny Manning, right? They had a superstar and then some other good players. You know, hey, Callaway, you're not too bad, transferring here from Indiana and whatever. But they had some, you know, some dudes. But it was really Danny Manning playing like a Superman, basically. So you have a chance if your Superman plays like Superman. But I worry about them just not being able to stop people from scoring on them. Right. I don't like this. I don't like this matchup for them for a variety of reasons. So I don't think Oral Roberts. I think it'll be a fun game. Once again, we keep saying this early on, right? But once you miss a couple shots, it could go fast. It could turn up pretty quickly.
Exactly.
And then you said, we did
Baylor Villanova.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Baylor, kind of an unstoppable killing machine. So I don't want to denigrate Villanova at all. And we've seen, you know, Villanova have miraculous runs in the playoff, in the tournaments before, but this is not that. John Pannone isn't walking through that door, people. Howard McClain's not walking through that door. Yep. Gary, what's the other kid? Ed Pinkney isn't walking through that door. Yeah. Right? They have some players. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not like they're trash. But man, Jared Butler, Davian Mitchell, Mikal Teague. I mean, there's so much talent coming at them in waves. Yep. Baylor has dudes, so many dudes. I just can't see them being able to. It's like wow, so and so is a really great, you know, fighter, and then they're suddenly fighting someone who's like 50 pounds heavier, but just as quick. Like, that's not a good matchup. When somebody can just take all the things you do, but do them better than you do them. That rarely works out, right? So
Marvin Hagler, Tommy Harris. Oh no, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
That's actually not a call. That was good.
Yeah, that was a good call there. But yeah, I just worry about Villanova getting sort of just swept away, for lack of a better way of putting it. I think once again they'll put up something of a fight. I love Jay Wright. I mean, he's awesome. Jeremiah Robinson Earl is an interesting player, but man, if he has to go down in the middle against the guys that Baylor can throw at him, I mean, but you know, like I just see him getting worn down or fouling out, and now what happens? You know what I mean? Like, they're already down one of their Colin Gillespie's already, he's still hurt, if I remember something correctly. Like, he's like, he didn't get better, right? So they don't have enough stuff. They don't have enough. Sorry.
Well, and that's what it boils down to. I think I'll start with that game. It is when someone defends as well as Baylor does as a team, and I'm a broken record also, it forces you to play your best game. And I don't know if even Villanova's best game is going to be enough. Nope. Because Baylor is a unit. Everybody defends. Everybody seems super long. And you're going to have to play 40 minutes of near flawless basketball because they're going to take advantage of every mistake you make. And when you do make a run, they've always got an answer. So it is, you actually weren't wrong because Tommy Hearns was a great fighter. Shout out Metro Detroit, Tommy Hearns, right? But Marvin Hagler had an answer for everything he did for 2.5 rounds. And Tommy didn't fight a bad 2.5 rounds. Right? And that's what's going to happen.
Great 2.5 rounds.
Baylor can bring, but I mean, Villanova can bring their best Tommy Hearns. Eventually, Baylor is Marvin Hagler in this analogy, without a question, right? And so the thing with Oral Roberts is simply Arkansas has depth. Arkansas has 4 dudes that score probably between 10 and 18. So my simple analysis is Oral Roberts isn't good enough to stop everybody, right? If you stop Moses Moody, you got to stop Justin Smith. If you somehow stop Moses Moody and Justice Smith, then Jalen Tate is still on the floor, right? So that's the thing. They have guys where their balance is underrated. Arkansas can beat you in a lot of ways. So again, I think cute story. They've got a couple of decent players, like Bill mentioned. Arkansas is a team. Arkansas is a complete team. Well, they're at least like 4 borderline NBA players. But if you got 4 borderline NBA players on a college team, you're a 3 seed in the tournament, and you're probably got a shot at the Final Four. And that's what Arkansas really is. They defend well. Musselman, is that Musselman? I think is their coach.
Yep, Coach Musselman.
Musselman can coach. Musselman learned at the foot, right, of his father. So I think Arkansas is going to be too much for Oral Roberts, and you know how I feel about Baylor. Baylor's going to play next Monday night, in my opinion. So,
all right, well, we'll see.
I have Baylor winning it all. I think they're the only team that can beat Gonzaga.
I agree.
And I have Gonzaga winning it all, so we'll see who meets in the play.
2 Baylors and 1 Gonzaga. We will see.
All right, guys, let's see. Let's talk a little NFL here.
Yes, let's get to my favorite league. Yes, the league that rules the world.
Well, now, a couple. I think the last time we were taught, they're going to have to let go of Sue. They're going to have to let go of here. They're going to have to do this. And now, all of a sudden, the Bucks seem to have their pieces in place. Everybody else is, hollering about the salary cap this and the salary cap this, but it seems like the Bucks found a way to make it work. Dimitri?
All right, I'm going to throw out a question. Let me throw out a question. I think Bill will know the answer. If I ask you for a name, the one person singularly responsible for the Bucks being able to do kind of what they're doing, I'm hoping we're on the same page, but I wonder what name you would throw out there.
The same guy that used to play for that other team up in
close. Her name is Giselle Bundchen. That's her name, right? Because her husband can say, "Look, guys, I'm good. Restructure it. Do whatever you got to do. Finagle the cap. Check. I'm good. Trust me. We're going to be fine." So then they can go and pay Levante David. They can tag Chris Godwin. They can somehow pay Shaq Barrett. Where the hell are they getting this money? Like, Giselle is the MVP. She deserves a trophy. She should get the trophy. She get all the trophies. That's the same thing New England did for the better part of 15 years. Giselle was supplementing their salary cap. And when you can do that, it is fantastic. I think it's really hard to win again. Not because of talent, but when guys get paid, yeah, we can be honest. We're all friends. It's different when the guy gets the check. Once he secures the bag, I think there's a different mentality. And I'm not disparaging Levante David or Shaq Barrett or Godwin or Gronk or any of these guys. And just mentally, once you've done it, it is a different deal when you are trying to prove something and get there versus trying to defend yourself. You're getting everybody's best shot every single week. You're getting everybody's best. And you're out there trying. It's a different mentality. I think, obviously, you guys know, based on what's over my shoulder, I think the Rams made a significant move that makes them much, much better. And I think that it's hard to repeat. And nobody's repeated since when? Since Patriots 01-ish, 02-ish, something like that?
Since Tom Brady?
Right. Good point.
I'm just saying. I mean,
it was him. Actually, so, that's a good point. So, I think that it's tough to do. And I think there's a big part of it that's mental, though. That is the grind every day when you're trying to go get it and getting into the gym and doing those extra reps and getting those extra practices in and all that stuff. That motivation when you're trying to get there is different when you've already got it. You can look at that ring on your finger, but it helps when Giselle's supplementing the cap for you. That's a big help.
But doesn't it also help, Bill, when you can bring a plethora of rings into the like throw them across the table,
come in doing
right,
right. Which one do you guys want to look
at? Yeah. So
it helps.
I mean, everything you're saying makes sense, but that one guy is phenomenal. That's all.
He's a difference maker, right? And like what you're talking about is credibility. So when he goes upstairs up to like the 8th floor or whatever and says, "Hey, whatever the dude's name is, I don't think it matters to us. I think we should go get AB." That guy's gonna figure out a way to go get AB because Tom is in his face doing like this. Like, do you want one of these? Because I got a handful. Go get Leonard Fournette somehow, right? Go figure out a way to go sign Gronk. And this guy just does it. And I should know their GM's name. Light, I think is his name. Licht or something like that. But when he can walk in the room, like you said, with a handful of rings and tell you, the GM, we need to go do this. That credibility can't be ignored. Because just like you just did me when I said it hasn't been done, and like you were like, yeah, Tom Brady did. That's what he does in meetings. He sits in the meetings. Yeah, that was me. I was the one who did that, by the way. In case y'all forgot, that was me.
Yeah. So I mean, like you said, I mean, when you have that cushion to fall back on, and I mean, it's not that I'm running into the same thing, with Big Ben. Yeah. Unfortunately, he has buku mouths to feed rather than a wife that can actually supplement his income.
He does have a slew, right?
I think he at least has a starting five and some backups. I know that.
6 man.
7-man football. Right. I mean, seems like we've lost Bill here for a minute, but I'm sure Bill will be back. Clint had told me that he wasn't going to be around today because he had some youth activities that he had to fulfill. I don't know. Maybe we were a little too relaxed for some of our other guys, but I hope they'll come back. Frank, I know is having a little. I think he got a little salty at us for ridiculing his delay every week.
Really? I didn't think that's what happened. Oh, I was saying that was all in fun. Come on, Frank.
No. Frank is good. I'm just once again get him my little digs in.
We did have a little fun.
Yeah,
we had a little fun with it. That was good.
Yeah, we did. But as you said, it was all in fun. So we all at least I know I always try to check out his sports network and the different things that he's doing, and make sure I either repost them on Facebook and when you look at some of the people that he interviews, not only are they some very untraditional sports, but you find yourself at every level learning a little bit more about whatever sport it is that you happen to incorporate.
Yep.
So I guess while we don't have Bill here, we might as well talk about your Lions.
and never a dull topic.
Right. But they did make some room for the cap. They managed to restructure Goff's contract, giving it to him as a signing bonus and not having to count it against the cap. So why don't you tell us about the maneuver that was made and what it means to the future of your draft picks?
Yeah, so I think that good point, right? Immediately, there's an impact to the draft, but I think it's and I've always admitted on my own podcast, the Roar podcast, excuse me, which I plugged the SPORTSKRIB on my most recent pod like crazy because it's pretty awesome. But I think that it goes back all the way to when Sheila Ford Hamp took over ownership of the team from her mother. There has been this consistent strategy. Y'all right. We got Bill back. That's great. So there has been this consistent strategy that they've done, which has been about collaboration and trying to do what I talked about last week, which is just keep making good decisions. And a big part of the GM's job, Brad Holmes is the GM we brought over from the Rams, in addition to trades and drafting and free agents and hiring coaches, is managing the cap, right? And sometimes when you can make a decision that gives you cap flexibility, which this move saves them $15 million this year on the cap, but also stays consistent with your plan, because these guys are here for a while and they're not making any secret that this is a rebuild. They're not, I'm not going to sit here and say they're tanking, because I don't think that's what it is. I think their decisions are really smart, but they made a commitment to Jared Goff. And maybe they thought Jared needed it. Maybe they thought the fans needed it, but it clearly means we're not taking a quarterback at 7. There's no world where we take a quarterback at 7, because in restructuring this deal, you previously were only committed to him for a year. Next year, you could have got out of his deal with a manageable dead money cap hit. Not now, right? Now, next year, that dead money cap hit is 15. You're committed to Jared Goff now for minimum 2, probably 3 years, which either means A, they have confidence that they have the guy. And this could end up being brilliant, right? If he plays well, we have a quarterback at a manageable number for another 2 years, and Brad Holmes is a genius. And even if it doesn't work, you have two number ones next year. So he mentors the rookie for a year. Then you get out from under his contract 2 years from now at something around 7.5 or 8 million dead money, which you can manage. So it is brilliant immediately with the $15 million relief you get on the cap. It is brilliant long term. You probably built his confidence with this move, because now you're committed to him for 3 years and you tell him you're our guy. You're sending him a message. You're our guy. Now, the only downside, which I don't truly buy, is that you lose some kind of trade leverage at 7. Oh, there's no threat the Lions are going to take a quarterback. So somebody, Trey Lance falls and you're down there and you want Trey Lance. That's not how this league works. Because what really is happening is they're taking multiple calls. So when that guy calls at 12 and says, oh, I know you're not taking a quarterback, so I'm just going to sit here and wait. Brad Holmes' answer is, but the team on the other line needs a quarterback. So do you really want to end this call right now? I don't worry about the leverage thing. I'm thrilled that it's a rebuild. I'm thrilled that they've stayed consistent. From the day Sheila Fort Hamp put together that advisory committee, this is a rebuild. And that's the only real way you can do it. You have to do it this way. You have to get draft capital, and you have to build a team that way. So I love the move, because if Brad Holmes, who drafted Jared Goff, who literally looked Les Snead in the eye when Les Snead came to him and said, is there anybody in this draft you trade up to one to get? We're going to have to give a bunch to get the one. But if I wanted to get the one, is there anybody worth it? He said, there's only one dude I'd trade up to one for, and it's Jared Goff. And Les Snead listened to him and pulled the trigger. I don't know a fraction of what Brad Holmes knows about Jared Goff. That's just a reality. But I trust him so far in the half dozen, 8 big decisions he's made. He's hitting nothing but home runs and triples. Restructuring contracts, letting Kenny Galladay go get 16.5 or whatever he got from the Giants. We couldn't do that. The restructuring, the Michael Brockers trade was brilliant. Then he restructured his contract and got another $3 million. Like, everything he's doing screams he knows what he's doing. So I trust him. If he wants to extend Goff a year, that tells me he thinks there's still something in Jared Goff that could work. And if he's wrong, it doesn't even hurt that bad, because we got 2 1s next year and 2 1s the year after that. We can solve a quarterback problem in either of the next 2 years. So I think it was brilliant. When you can save $15 million, you got a draft class you got to sign. You want flexibility in case somebody releases another free agent you like. You need the money. Some of this is managing the checkbook. That's part of his job, is managing that checkbook. And I think he's been brilliant with that part as he has with every other part of his job so far. So I'm happy with it.
Bill, you left when we were talking about the Giselle subsidy. You want to chime in on that, and then talk about
the solution,
Goff?
Well, the solution, you see that Russell Wilson has decided to go down the same track. So the solution is to, when you're putting together your team, try to match up your players with supermodels, singers, dancers, and actresses.
Right.
So that's, when you're putting together a team, sort of figure out, okay, well, who's available out there for them to marry, right?
2 incomes. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Can somebody get Keke Palmer on the line before so we can make sure,
awesome. Yeah.
we can I mean, you got to be thinking next level, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we're
love the Kiki Palmer reference, though.
I know. I love Kiki Palmer too. That's great.
Always
that
worth
out.
it.
Kiki Palmer is awesome.
Palmer anyway, right?
Right?
I mean, I'll try to work this in from now on, along with my passionate, deep-seated hatred of the Patriots.
I'm gonna have to put chest.
I'm trying to make sure.
Now I feel I have to put Chester underneath that my name there.
exactly.
But my point is that yes, they have a cheat code to some extent. However, the cheat code doesn't help you to not have the old guys on your team get older. It doesn't help the guys that were injury prone who didn't get injured last year stay healthy this year.
Yeah.
So many things have to go right.
Yeah.
For you to win a Super Bowl. So many things. It's hard to even explain how many things have to fall into place for a team to win a Super Bowl.
Sign Tom Brady?
Well, it's not quite that simple. Like Tom Brady went where he went for a reason. Even Tom Brady can't turn water into wine.
Right.
Everyone's acting like he would have stayed with the Patriots forever if only Bill Belichick had let him. No. He looked at that team and was like, "It's been great, all of you, the memories forever." Yeah. He knew he needed to get out of there. There were no more Super Bowls coming, at least while in his window, if he stayed.
Yeah.
He went to a situation where the coach, the offensive coordinator and head coach could be like, we have this whole plan, but we're willing to throw it away if you say so. Right? so that was part of his thinking. Oh, we have like 3 guys that would be the best wide receiver on half the teams in the league all year.
Yep.
Oh, and you want to bring along your wingman as an extra tight end? Sure, whatever. That wasn't every team. You understand?
Exactly.
That couldn't happen every place. Let's give some credit to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have an awesome defense with a future Hall of Famer or 2 on it.
Yep.
Let's not pretend that Tom Brady's out there playing safety. He's not playing all the positions. He's playing one position. He's being well protected with a plethora of offensive talent and a really good defense.
Yeah.
If you could give all that same stuff to Aaron Rodgers, he can win Super Bowls.
Sure.
All that same stuff to Russell Wilson, he can win Super Bowls.
Yep.
I mean, there's a bunch of dudes, not bunch, but there's a handful of very good quarterbacks in this league.
That can win one.
They can win more than one if you gave them all that. You think Russ couldn't win more than one with that team? Come on, son.
Come on now. No, wait a minute now. Tom, all those teams that Tom Brady had up there in New England weren't necessarily, like Cincinnati Bengals, 12 first-round draft picks. I mean, it
doesn't matter when you're drafted. It matters how good. People like to pretend that. People like to pretend because where was Tom picked? 199. Well, here's what I'm pointing out. People like to pretend that Tom was carrying this Patriots team. Now, that last one, he was having to carry that one because that team was bad. Yeah. But he played on a lot of good football teams. Like, let's not get it twisted. He's a great quarterback, of course. He's a historically great quarterback. But he played on most of his career, they had a top 8 defense.
Yep.
With a couple of exceptions. He played on.
And he always wanted to Pete Carroll. He has to share
or whoever called that
Carroll,
play, right?
He kind of owes one to Kyle Shanahan too.
He does. Yep.
My point is, so if you take those two, and obviously he got one more, but at one point he would have been almost 500 in Super Bowls. If you whatever, let's not get into all that. I'm not on Tom Brady. I mean, I can do that on my own time. The point
it's a different podcast for that, right?
Right, exactly, because of my deep. In the bone, bored, inbred hatred of the Patriots. But the important thing is to understand that if you build a team correctly, you add in, even if it's a top 5 quarterback, forget like an all-time great quarterback. You have a top 5 quarterback and you build your team correctly, you have a very good chance to win a Super Bowl. Yeah. A very good chance. So Justin Herbert, just a kid, but you drop him on that team, you think they might not win a Super Bowl? Yeah. Come on. Did you watch Justin Herbert last year? Come on. I'm telling you, you give that kid this team?
Ask Tyrod Taylor, who watched Justin Herbert last year.
Well, yes. Right. Well, they got to stay away from the team doctor. But so we give so much to the quarterbacks. We give them too much credit. We give them too much blame. They are an important player. They're a very important player, but they're not demigods. You know, they don't take bad teams and make them great. There's never been a quarterback alive who did that. Never. There have been great quarterbacks who took good teams and made them great, right? That can happen, right? Peyton, he wasn't even a great quarterback anymore. Well, he was borderline still, kind of, sort of. But when remember, he was really just a good quarterback, really.
Yep, exactly.
But he had the aura, and the aura counts for something. We like to pretend it doesn't, but the aura does. The aura counts. Tom's got aura, and he's still a very young 43. Peyton was a very old 39, 38, whatever it was. By that point, he was very old, 38 or 37, whatever. He'd had the spinal surgery and all that stuff. The point is that he still was in here. In here, he was still Peyton Manning. And to all who looked at him, they still saw Peyton Manning.
Right.
So he goes to a really good team. Like Denver but they were ready. It was sort of like what we just saw happen. You just dropped him in there, and that was the last thing they needed to push them over the top. Now, they didn't win the Super Bowl initially, right? They got, as we pointed out, fed to a wood chipper by that defense that Seattle put out there. But they figured it out, and then they won the next time. They managed to skip that initial period, at least in part because they didn't run into, no offense to Kansas City's defense, but that wasn't the Legion of Boom they faced.
No.
But let's be honest. That was their version of playing defense is getting a couple of turnovers and a couple of stops. You know what I mean? Like that
defense is getting Mahomes the ball again. Right?
Yes, right. But that's if you can get 4, like 2 or 3 stops and maybe a turnover, a couple of turnovers.
Yeah,
that's successful defense.
Yeah.
Even if they score every other time they get the ball, if you get 2 or 3 stops and a couple of turnovers, you've done your job as Kansas City defense.
Yeah, exactly.
But that didn't work that game because one, the amazing job by Todd Bowles. Let's be honest, Todd Bowles is the real MVP of that defense.
Yes.
Like nobody wants to say it, but that's the MVP of that defense. It's Todd Bowles. Yeah. Todd Bowles said to himself, "I don't think they're patient enough to just run the ball down our throat."
Exactly. Yep.
If they do, they beat us, and we just take it. But I don't think it's going to happen. We are going to play like they're going to throw the ball every down,
every single down,
and we're going to commit all of these guys to rushing the passer, and the rest of everyone else to dropping deep.
Right.
That's it. If you decide to run the ball, we lose. Right. Yeah. But
and if you can beat me running the ball, I can look in the mirror and say, okay, shake your hand. Okay. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. Todd Bowles was great in that. You're right.
He was amazing. It was one of the great coaching performances, I think, I've been watching pro football since 1972. I remember that was Super Bowl 5 was when Jim O'Brien kicked the last minute field. Okay, so from that point forward, I've been watching professional football, and I can't think of too many. There's times when you realize, oh man, this coach is winning the game, right? Yeah. That doesn't that often, right? Coaches are important, but rarely do you see yourself, man, this coach is winning the game.
Yeah,
that was a situation where I said to myself, this coach is winning the game.
Yeah,
and the game is the Super Bowl against one of the great offenses we've ever seen.
Yep.
He does not getting nearly enough credit.
Yeah.
Todd Bowles is amazing, and he deserves to have flowers strewn at his feet.
He deserves to have a head coaching job. That's what he deserves.
Also that.
Right?
Yes.
And
thank
that
you.
little
Also
thing
that.
there.
Well,
also that other thing.
Well, when you look at the coaching staff from this Super Bowl, hey, I'll just say it. Anyway,
it's okay. We could say it, but we don't really need to. I would have no problem saying the job that Leftwich and Bieniemy and Bowles did to get their teams there. My team hired Dan Campbell. I don't have a problem saying it. I love my team. Okay. Oh, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Right. There you go. We'll see what happens. Maybe Dan Campbell is the next great thing in coaching.
Right. I can't judge Dan Campbell until they're on the field playing meaningful games. So that's not a shot against him, but I know what Todd Bowles is. I know what I saw that game in February. And quite frankly, I know what Eric Bieniemy appears to be. But we'll see.
We'll see.
Let's while we're talking about the Lions, I guess we might as well go ahead and talk about the Rams too, because they picked up of course Deshaun Jackson, but how enthusiastic are you about I know everybody's talking about they finally got that guy that's going to be that deep threat, but is Deshaun still a deep threat? I mean, he's still fast, but fast don't catch the ball no more.
Fast guy sitting on the sidelines, sure as shit, certainly doesn't catch the ball. Right? So I have admitted, and I am unapologetically a Matthew Stafford fan. I think Bill just talked about Peyton going to Denver. I think that's what's happening now with the Rams. I personally do. But that is totally jaded by my love for Matthew Stafford. I think, yes, you get him a guy to stretch the field. He hadn't had that since a guy wore 81 in Detroit, retired a couple of years ago. He can throw the football a long way. Right? His arm, no one's ever made a negative comment about his arm.
No.
Right? I challenge the person who tells me that. His arm talent has been top 5 since he stepped into this league. Deshaun Jackson will be helpful. A healthy Deshaun Jackson gives him what was the Randy Moss? Take the top off the defense. He can take the top off the defense, which makes everything else easier. Now, I think he's the missing piece. And you always hear the same word. I think Bill said it earlier. Weapons. When you think you're there, you go try and get weapons. It's what Tampa did last year. Leonard Fournette, weapon. Gronk, weapon. AB, weapon. They're just trying to get weapons. And you get as many as you can because guys get hurt. And by the way, statistical probability that Rob Gronkowski is going to play next year without getting hurt. Okay. So everything's not going to go right. I think quietly, again, hating up always piggyback on Bill, but he's just right a lot. But it is hard for everything to go right again.
But you don't need Gronk for 16 games. I mean, there's some other talented guys over there at tight end.
They're loaded.
So if you get 6 games out of Gronk and 3 touchdowns, you're fine.
Probably are.
Right.
I think that's the theory that the Rams are taking with Deshaun Jackson. Right. If we get 8 games, if we get a couple of touchdowns, and if he is somebody that the defense on Wednesday in their meetings have to spend some time accounting for, they're not focused on somebody else. That's a win. Because he can still run really fast. Right.
He's going to help Robert Woods. He's going to help Josh Reynolds. He's going to help Cooper Kupp. That's what he's really going to do.
Right.
That's what he's going to do.
Cooper Kupp to me is like the Lance Allworth of
we know who he is. We can say it, right? It's just the 3 of us. He's the white dude. He's
the state champion in the sprints.
Lance Allworth is that's not the best.
But
Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, Julian Edelman.
Yeah,
we know what to do.
He's closer to that. Lance Allworth is fly.
Right, but
maybe even an Adam Thielen, maybe. I don't know.
Well, Thielen was bigger and a way better athlete, but
Thielen's great.
But I'm also looking at Deshaun's percentages here, yards after the catch, catching targets, so forth and so on. So that's why I'm wondering if this is really an upgrade, or if this is the guy that Stafford needs. Especially, I mean, there are some other free agents still out there that can run.
Sure. I mean, T.Y. Hilton would have been the better option if you get him for the same money, but you can't get him for the same money.
And they have
that's
money.
How it works. You see, you can only pay people what you can afford to pay them.
But all of these guys that you mentioned, even T.Y. Hilton, they're on 1-year deals.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's not like you're trying to ensure the future of your team. It's now. It's what are you doing now?
Well, yeah, they're trying to win now. I mean, they're not trying to win in the future. They're trying to win now.
It's not a Detroit situation. We made the playoffs. We feel that we were 1 game away. I go get Deshaun Watson, really? I mean, Deshaun Jackson, really? I mean,
I'm not sure they're not done. They're June 1st cuts. There's some really good budget moves that happen after June 1st cuts. I would say look for the Rams to be very active on June 2nd. That's what I would say.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Yeah, well, I guess
we're just gonna skip over the Steeler thing. We just not even do the Steeler thing. What, Mr. King? Are we?
Do you see me hanging my head?
I'm waiting.
I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready to hang my head and talk about this because this really, really bothers me here. And I'm talking about we have 4 let me repeat this again. We have after free agency, we have 4 starters on the defense.
Correct. So you can either look at this negatively or positively, right? Negative to say we don't have enough guys to field the team right now. So that's right, because you couldn't actually play a football game, you'd have to forfeit. So that's not.
There is no upside to this, Bill.
Bill's trying. Bill's trying, man.
But now you've got room to bring in young talent. Now you can.
He's really trying. That's a great effort, man. That is an effort.
I like the talent in this draft on defense. Yeah. So I graded out guys who I thought had starter potential. I found 88 players that I've graded out on defense I thought had starter potential, guys who could start in the NFL, not just be depth guys who I think could start. And of them, about a quarter of them, about 22 of them are guys I think could be stars. Now, drafting
and we're picking what?
The hallmark.
We're picking number 26, 25.
There's going to be good players still on the board.
They're really good players
taken in the 5th round, James.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, when did Brady go off the board? Right? When did Jared Allen go off the board? I mean, there's good players taken outside of the 1st round. I wish people would stop acting like the draft round is late.
No. That what I'm saying is we have some immediate needs on both sides of the ball.
Oh, everywhere. Yes, everywhere.
On both sides of the ball. Talent. Right. So I mean, so if we have to put all our resources into rebuilding a defense, we still haven't found a running game from 2 years ago, let alone last year. 2 years ago, we haven't had a running game since Le'Veon Bell left. Let's just be truthful.
Correct. You could probably get Le'Veon Bell back.
You could.
Problem solved, James.
Okay, so here's a little perspective for you, James.
Should we get AB too? I mean, what the hell? I mean,
you can.
I don't think they're letting AB go, but I'm pretty sure you get left.
Well, Ben can't throw the ball that far anymore either, so that's another.
Those guys walking around that building, looking at all those damn trophies, and thinking about, what you have? You have Mike Tomlin. That's where we start. Is you have Mike Tomlin, and you have a history of developing young players. So when Bill talks about the draft, it is really meaningful. When he talks about there's 88 NFL caliber contributors, like 22 stars, 88 like starters. If you get 3 of them, they will all contribute. You don't need to get all 88.
That's not
possible. But you only need 3 or 4 because
and we do have some young talent. We do have some young talent.
You do.
But but I also wonder, like how much of Mike Tomlin's career is tied to Big Ben. In other words, I know that this is the last.
I'm gonna say one more year, James. That's
kind of my assessment too. And it doesn't look good because, number one, I think we should have moved on from Big Ben. But as you said, Bill, as you so pointed out so many times, if not Big Ben, who? I mean, are we gonna, are we going after Marcus Mariota? I mean, really? I mean, come on now, let's just be serious, But and then like I said, you do have some talent that's still left. But you also know that that this is a league. Like I said, I'm wondering how much influence we can actually. If you would give Mike Tomlin, if you would guarantee him, I think at least 2 more years, if not 3, he could probably work himself out of this situation. But right now, given the cap and given the propensity that we have for keeping overrated white guys, I do think that it's going to be very hard to rebuild and get back. Right now, we have the 4th best quarterback in the division, and at best, the 3rd best team in the division.
Yes.
Now, come on, guys.
But here's the thing, though. You guys, we're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? We didn't start talking about they don't fire coaches, bro. They don't. No. I mean, you're 3 coaches in 60 years or so.
Oh, no, yeah.
Mike Tomlin's gonna be fine. Mike Tomlin can coach football. Anybody who doesn't know that doesn't get it. So it is GM. It's Kevin Colbert. If somebody's got a hot seat, it's got to be Colbert. He's got to get him, and you just name. I think Mike Tomlin can compete in that division with Marcus Mariota as a quarterback. Absolutely, because Mike Tomlin knows how to coach. So you get him talent. Tomlin will develop the talent. He'll get them to fit the system. They will be competitive. They're the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's like you're talking about the Lions, except I'm confused right now because
so what we're dealing with right here is the fact that James is what other people would call spoiled. I won't say it because I respect him too much.
Oh, I love the guy, but come on.
But I've been, once again, you have a few years on me in being a Steelers fan, but I've been a Steelers fan for a good long time too. And I'm aware, I'm also a Yankees fan, so don't hate me. But Yankees fans are just as bad, if not worse.
Yep.
I mean, God, what a pain in the butt Yankees fans are. Right? Sometimes I was like, how did this happen? But there is this, I mean, just really a sense of why aren't we winning all the time? It doesn't.
I don't want AFC championships.
Look at this guy. It's seeing entitlement on a black guy who has served his country, who has done all the things, Mr. King. Seeing entitlement on James King is such a weird look to me.
It's a weird look. I understand. What I need James to understand is this team is going to have to rebuild. They're going to try to do it on the fly, which is the hard way to do it, right?
Yes, it is.
The way it's usually done is you go 3-13, then you go 5-11, then 7-9, and then you're good. Right? That's how it's usually done. But James would lose his mind if they did that. So
8-8.
Right, exactly. Right. And that's what Steelers fans are. Like people are like swerving all over the road because of 8, acting erratic. Here's what you have to understand. This team used to be one of the great, maybe the greatest draft and develop franchise the world has ever seen.
Yep.
And then our drafting became a little shaky. So if you aren't killing it in the free agent market and you're not doing a great job of drafting. I mean, we've drafted some good players. I mean, Tua certainly more than panned out. We've let some guys go in free agency that kind of hurt me to the heart. I loved Alvin Bud Dupree, like once again, like a long lost son. Way more athletic than any of my actual sons would be, but really, I loved him, and it hurt me to see him go. The Minka Fitzpatrick was probably the biggest, flashiest move we made in free agency since what?
Yeah.
You got to go back.
Was that a trade or a free agent sign?
Well, actually, wait.
They traded, right? They made
it was the first round. We traded.
Yeah.
Right, good point. So we haven't made a splash in free agency in ever, baby. I'm trying to think.
In ever?
No, we haven't.
No, so okay,
we don't do that.
So,
that's not
your drafting. Right, so your drafting has to be really good, and so we lost our first round draft pick, right? So you've really got to do a great job drafting because now we're back on the first round now because we survived, sort of, but the Minka pick cost us a first.
Yeah,
but you just have to focus on rebuilding, and it'd be great to win at the same time. We all like winning, but to just tell yourself that we should be competing for a Super Bowl while we're rebuilding, well, I won't say it's impossible. It's highly unlikely, and you just have to get over it. I don't know what else to say. Like this is a team that has some.
You just have to get over it.
There's legitimate holes in this team that have to be filled.
Most definitely. That's the thing. You see the holes, you want to plug the holes, but then it's like you're the little boy with the with his finger that you only have one finger. You got 12 holes. Right. But hey, we are one of those spoiled franchises. I will admit that. Like I said, 8-8 is not acceptable. A lot of franchises would kill to be a consistent 8-8. So I do.
It's like you don't even know I'm here. The banner is right here. The banner is like literally right behind me, and you just ignore it. Well, 8 days. Man, we would have a parade at Hart Plaza if we go 8 days. And you guys are breaking up. I'm sorry. They drafted Chase Claypool, who's a really good player. They drafted Devin Bush.
Yes.
They drafted Deontay Johnson. They drafted TJ Watt. They can draft.
I should probably preface it by saying that, once we had a 4 Hall of Famers, we probably set the bar a little high there, and managed to get back to that. So let me be more specific. Our ability to draft corners somehow fell apart. That's what I should have said. Yeah. We can still draft, but if you look at the last several, Ricardo Coakley, maybe? No. What's his name?
Kid out of Michigan State, right?
Ike Taylor. Ike Taylor,
yeah.
Ike Taylor, sorry. Ike Taylor was probably the last really good corner we drafted.
Yeah.
Since then, the corners we drafted have been the kind of guys that, frankly, aren't good enough. Yeah. And so we've had to Joe Hayden, right? We had to find them other places.
Yeah.
Or play guys that really aren't that good. And so I should have been more specific. We still draft fairly well. I'm being unfair.
It feels like it. I like Justin Wayne because he's a Spartan, but I don't think he's lived up to his potential. Maybe not yet, but no, I'm sorry. Those are the guys I remember top of my head. They drafted Juju, right?
Yes.
I think a 17 draft. You guys got TJ, Connor, and Juju, if I'm not mistaken. Okay,
I'm probably complaining more than I should, actually, Derek.
I feel like you might be. I'm just saying, maybe.
But I can't say I feel your pain. I want to feel your pain, but but no, I don't. You don't. I mean,
and I don't want you to. I don't want to. I always tell people, if I had a choice, I would be a fan of another team. Unfortunately, I'm actually a real fan. And you can't do anything about it when it's real. Nope. So
hey, I moved from Pittsburgh to California, and I'm still a Steelers fan.
Right, so, all your gear is there. You have the thing right behind you. Right? So the gear travels. Shirts can go in a suitcase. Real fans don't bail like that.
Right. I mean, I have lots of friends who are Bears fans, and I, respect them and care for them or whatever. But I can't get worried about the Bears or whatever. I mean, they watch because I kind of have to. I know the team, but I don't get excited or sad or whatever happens to the Bears. I'm an analyst. I watch them do things or not do things, and then I say what they're doing. And I'm not quite as live or die with any team like I used to be. I mean, I used to have a bad if the Steelers played badly. Like I would be. My math test I wouldn't do as well. Like everything bad, right? My lunch didn't taste as good. I've gotten to the point where it's still.
I feel like Mr. King can still relate to that. I feel like he's ready.
My house is not a good place to be on Sunday if the Steelers lose. I mean, that's just
it's the way it should be. That's the way it should be.
That's just the way.
Bill is just more evolved than we are.
I'm not gonna say it doesn't hurt. I try to let it affect every part of my life, right? I try to compartmentalize more now. But now losses in the playoffs, I'll admit that I need a good day to get over those. Right?
I don't know if we should talk about playoffs in the presence of Dimitri.
Here we go. Look, we've been there. We've been there.
Ourselves an extra pay there.
Right. I know the season's over week 10, so I get to enjoy the month of December and Thanksgiving and all that stuff. You guys are still invested. I'm already looking to the future. The draft is the best day of the year for a Lions fan. Those 3 days are the year for us. I'm pretty excited.
Well, you can get on me about being a Steelers fan, but there's somebody that I can always throw another little nudge at, and that's the Cowboy fans.
Right. Well, because much like Patriots, we all hate the Cowboys.
They have all the same sort of delusions and deliriums, but less to back it up.
Right.
Yeah, I got what you're saying. Yeah.
They just forget they've got a 20-year gap of being relevant. It's like it doesn't matter. They still talk Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith. Okay.
Like those dudes are about to walk onto the field any minute now.
Right.
Well, a very interesting bet this week between Stephen A. and Michael Irvin. Actually, I would really love to see Stephen A. in one of Michael Irvin's suits, but uh, Stephen A. Told Michael Irvin, actually, it was a wager, that if the Cowboys don't win a Super Bowl during Dak's contract, this 4-year contract, this present one, not only will he lead the parade, he'll wear a Michael Irvin's one of Michael Irvin's suits, and as Michael threw in, he also has to clean Michael's house. Demetrius, is this a safe bet for Stephen A?
In my Michael Irvin sweater, by the way, for the record, my designer Michael Irvin original. Stephen A is very, very safe. It isn't even about my hatred of the Dallas Cowboys. It is about what I know to be the economics of NFL football. They play with what's called a salary cap. And the reality is, once you dedicate X amount of resources to that position, any position, but particularly that one, it limits your ability to fill out the rest of your roster. Not your starting 22. You can have a solid starting 22. Depth is what makes the difference. Depth is the key. And right now, what has happened is they've got 3 guys with 3 contracts: Amari, Zeke, and Dak. I would guess it is an enormous amount of their cap. They're just not going to have the flexibility in the next 3 years. Now, the money's going to go up. It will help. The new TV contract's going to help. But I just don't think that they're going to have as much money as everybody else, like Detroit. So a random free agent guy next year, even if the cap goes up, it goes up for everybody. And he's got a chance to go play for Dallas, and Detroit's offering him X amount more, and then throw in other teams, the Jets, the Jaguars. Another 8 teams have substantially more cap space because they don't have 3 guys eating up a massive amount of their cap. It's going to limit Dallas's ability to be deep. And I think in this league, unless you're lucky like Tampa, knocking on wood, you need to be deep because guys are going to get hurt. And if you have a 43-year-old who plays like a 33-year-old and never gets hurt, and he's really, and you can do that, and his wife supplements your cap, okay, that's an outlier. We can't really take Tampa Bay and baseline the reality of the NFL to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's such an outlier for like a number of reasons. His ability to come in, flash all his rings, and call Leonard Fournette and call AB and call anybody he wants, basically, and then tell Chris Light, I think is the guy's name, get this done. And BA and Byron are like, cool. Like Bill said, here is our playbook. You take it home, bring back the one.
Jason Light.
Right. Jason Light. Sorry. Yeah, Jason Light.
But
so
you were close.
Right. And it's like, and Jason Light's brilliant. Okay. Jason Light was blinded because Tom was doing this, right? and you just go get it done. That's not the real NFL. And guess what? It definitely isn't. It isn't Dallas. Because like we just said, they haven't won anything in 20 years. Right? And when your cap is gobbled up by 3 big contracts, their offensive line is going to fall off because their good young offensive linemen that they're not paying now are going to come up and somebody else is going to pay them.
Right.
And linebackers, Jalen Smith, good young players on that team are going to come up and they're not going to be able to pay them. Amari or Zeke will be off that team probably next year, if not certainly 2 years. Because of all the money they gave Dak, which all that being said, I still think it was the right thing to do. They had to do it. But the economics of this league is your window for winning championships in general, except for the outlier, is when you have your superstars on rookie deals. That's the method in this league. When you're superstar, whether it's a running back that changes the game, most likely a quarterback, because I contend 55 games, 110 quarterbacks. 100 of them are in the Hall of Fame, going to the Hall of Fame, or played like a Hall of Famer the year they won. And the other 7 or 8 had world-class defenses.
Yep.
It's 2 ways to win Super Bowls. Right? You build a world-class defense, or you get yourself a Hall of Famer under center. Once you pay him, you can't pay anybody else. Well, not that many people. So that's my theory. So I think Steven's fine.
Right. Where Jerry Jones went wrong was he didn't.
I think the last time that Dallas won the Super Bowl wasn't Derek Anderson the MVP. I think so.
No. They won a Super Bowl before Derek Anderson was done with high school. Derek Anderson was in like 2004. They won the Super Bowl like almost 10 years before that. No, almost like 8 years. No, 8 or 9. Let me see. Doing the math.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute.
It's been 9 years. I think 95.
Yeah.
Derek Anderson. Derek Anderson was the MVP in 2004. That was way after they left their last.
No. I'm talking about the Steelers quarterback that actually won the game for the Cowboys. Wasn't it Derek Anderson?
No. He's talking about the guy who threw the interception.
Derek Anderson never played for the Steelers.
Yeah, he's not telling me.
I'm getting. I know his first name is Derek. I'll think of it. I'll look it up while you guys are gone because it was the last. It was the last Super Bowl that we lost.
Threw the interception. Was that the Larry Brown? Was that no? He threw the interception. I know what you're talking about though.
I mean, Neil O'Donnell.
Okay.
I knew. Okay, here we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's all coming together. Yeah. Found Larry Brown several times in that game. Right. I got him paid, baby.
Larry Brown cashed checks.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, yes.
But
that's who the Super Bowl MVP. I mean, he made Larry.
Yeah, I think that was James's point. He made Larry Brown.
Precisely. So
now that hurt. There's all things that still hurt. That would hurt. Yes,
I'll give you guys that.
Yes, that's. I remember that all too well.
I do too. Just couldn't get the guy's name, but I remember the results. But anyway, what's your thoughts there, Bill? On the Cowboys?
This is where Jerry Jones went wrong. He didn't manage to somehow introduce Amari Cooper to Lupito Nyong'o. He somehow did not manage to introduce Zeke to Rihanna, and he somehow didn't manage to get once again the aforementioned Miss Kiki Palmer introduced to Dak Prescott. If he managed to get those things all going, he could have built the team he needs to build because he would have that whole situation where it's like, you guys would be okay. You don't need every last dollar, right? No.
We'd all get more Kiki Palmer, which is the point.
Right. Unfortunately, the last I checked, none of the superstars on his team were married to superstars. So, with that being the issue, and as Demetrius pointed out, I think something like 38 point something % of their cap is tied up in 3 dudes, and that's not ideal. That's not what you want. That's not the play. Now the number will move a little bit when, as you said, when we go back to the 206 or whatever it is the salary cap goes to. But it's right now they've got a lot of cap tied up in 3 guys, and their once proud offensive line isn't what it used to be.
Yep.
Right? They've had one retirement already. They've had a couple of guys who have become injury prone, haven't played full seasons in a while. Like I think Stephen A. Smith is probably gonna be okay. If that's the question.
Quiet loss. Travis Fredericks was probably the best center in football.
I don't think people understand how much that hurt that team.
Exactly. That's
everything that we say about Zeke can be traced back to that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Frederick was terrific at countering, like making calls about whenever what the defensive line was doing. He was a heck of a run blocker, a pretty darn good pass protector, and he was the leader. I mean, he was the guy everybody looked to. He was the quarterback of the offensive line. Yeah. I don't think people really understand how important centers are, right? Frankly, Jeff Saturday.
Yeah.
People don't get how important Jeff Saturday. They don't get how important Jeff Saturday was. And sometimes he and Peyton would be having like almost fist fights on the sidelines because they were both so smart. They would both see these things. Now, obviously, Peyton always thinks he knows best, but Jeff Saturday never backed down. But Jeff Saturday was a football genius. Like, people understand how important having a brilliant mind at the center position matters. So even if the guy that comes along replaces him, and he isn't as physically good as Travis Frederick, but even if he were physically as good or even better, doesn't have the same level of accuracy and the same level of quickness in making adjustments, and that really hurt their run game. People really Zeke's a dog in it. Zeke is still Zeke. He's doing Zeke things as much as he can, but that offensive line is not the same. And losing Travis Frederick was the first real breakdown.
That was a blow.
Tyron Smith is not healthy and apparently will never. I mean, it looks like he may never be fully healthy.
Exactly. Yep.
He's got that microfracture thing going on, and that's
that's real. That's really bad. That's really
that's
bad.
not what you want. That's not that's never a good. That doesn't extend your career. That just buys you a little more time.
No.
The one thing about that I've always heard, and it gives me an opportunity to reference the Lions back when they were good. So they had a multi-Pro Bowl left tackle named Lomas Brown in the mid-90s.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Lomas should be in the Hall of Fame.
Right. Yes. Should be. And I hope he will. But Lomas said once, look, the truth is center's name was Kevin Glover. Right. Yes. No group is more important to be a unit, to be together, than the offensive line. The defensive line might be close, but they do so many rotations on the defensive line. It's about scheme. The wide receiver room, it doesn't even matter, right? But the offensive linemen are a unit. They need to work. And Lomas compared them to the Jackson 5. And he said, people think I'm Michael. Kevin Glover is actually Michael. He said, I might be Jackie or Tito. Kevin Glover is Michael. And Kevin Glover was phenomenal. He was a great center on the mid-90 Lion teams.
I don't think anybody ever admitted to being Tito, but we can reference that a little bit later. But guys, let's talk about somebody that even I wasn't really around to appreciate his game, but I watched it in black and white, and I'm sure that you guys have watched it also. Elgin Baylor passes at 86. Yes. Bill, the most underrated Laker legend.
I don't know if he's the most underrated, but unfortunately his career ended just as televised NBA games were starting to get sort of a national thing. He had a year where I think he had a whole year in college where he was 38 and 20. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. 38 and 20 1 year in college. 38 points per average, 38 points per game, and 20 rebounds per game. I don't think people get how ridiculously great he was. And two things worked against him. One is he retired 1 year too early, right? It's sort of like the same thing that happened with, we always look at Tiki Barber, guys like that. He plays one more year, he gets a ring, and people maybe look at him differently. So that worked against him a little bit. He played on those Lakers teams that were not quite, right? Almost so close, right? And then the year after, they finally climbed up to the top of the mountain. But he was incredibly smooth, a super athlete, and there weren't really any holes in his game. He could play maybe a lockdown defender, but he could play defense. He was pound for pound up there with Rodman and Fred Carter in terms of being able to rebound. I mean, he was I think he was listed at 6'6". He was more like 6'4", and just like with Michael Jordan, 6'4 3/4. But an amazing leaper and could just hang in the air. He was one of the first. Maybe he and Connie Hawkins were the first great aerialists in NBA history. Guys who could just swoop around and hang. Spectacular ability to just get off his feet and seemingly, like I said, wait for guys to he'd go up for a jumper, the guy would jump with him, he'd wait for him to come down and then shoot over him. It's amazing how he could just hang like that. In terms of when people leave him off too many lists in my mind, I'll put it that way. If Mike's a 2 guard and I consider him a small forward, I can put him on my all-time team.
Absolutely.
That's how much I respect his game. So essentially, I guess that because if you put LeBron sort of as a point, and if you cheat and kind of make Kobe like a, I mean, Kobe might be like the 6th man on this thing, but yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like your all-time Laker team, then I guess you kind of turn Shaq into a power forward. Then you've got Wilt, because that's a front line for you, right? And then I guess kind of sort of Kareem's a small forward.
You cannot do that. You got to make Elgin Baylor your 3. And I'm sorry.
You're probably right.
I'm sorry, Kareem. I love Kareem.
You're probably right. And then Elgin Baylor. Right. Elgin Baylor. And then Jerry
Kobe's got to come off the bench. Oh, by the way,
Kobe's got to go off the bench.
Irv's the point guard. Irv is the point guard. LeBron is the 2. Elgin, Wilt at center, and you make Shaq a ridiculous power forward. And all due respect to Kobe and Kareem, that's what that franchise has done to you, though.
Sure. I mean, it's ludicrous because Jerry West could play both point and as great as Magic was, I think Jerry West is better.
And I can't argue. I won't argue. It's not an
I
argument.
mean, it is a ludicrous question to ask, but that Lakers franchise, I mean, it's hard to do, right? All-time 5. It's like, good God. I mean, right? I mean, there's a few franchises like that, not many, a couple. I mean, the Celtics have kind of a similar issue, trying to figure out who the 5 would be. But the thing I'm going to leave you with about Elgin Baylor, the thing that I think the other reason why people don't realize is even Jordan usually didn't make it look that easy.
Right.
Sometimes he did, but often he looked like he was working and sweating and whatever. Elgin Baylor looked like he was just having a nice afternoon. You know what I mean? He didn't look like he was upset or excited or mad or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm playing a nice game of basketball with some other fine fellas. I mean, he really looked casual almost, even though he was doing amazing things. Even more so than Mike, who sort of lets you know I'm doing great things. You know what I mean? Like Mike lets you know I'm doing great things. Watch this. Tell your grandkids about this, right?
Exactly.
I'm creating something here that you need to see. There was none of that. There was no trumpeting. There was no look at me in his game. It was this amazingly spectacular game that was somehow still quiet and simple.
Yep. And I think your point
Dimitri,
about
don't forget, he also played a great part in that Laker front office. So if you're going to include his career, you can't just talk about him as a player.
Yeah. I agree. I think so. So again, I'm put in the position of Bill covered it all, right? So I got to take a different approach now because I could just
That's why I gave you the front office,
right? That thing that Bill said, and that thing that Bill said, and that other thing that Bill said. I could do that; it would be easy. But I would say to you that the best point was probably he was too early. Right? He was too early. 10 years later, 20 years later. Oh my God. So I'm going to take this approach because a lot of times when I didn't see him a lot live, I rely on other people I respect. And so I got two stories. I read Julius Erving's autobiography, and he did a full chapter on Elgin Baylor. And he said, Dr. J, right? For those of y'all who are too young to know who Julius Erving is, Dr. J said, I wanted to be Elgin Baylor. Right. Yep. I was unique, and people say I'm unique. I was trying to be Elgin Baylor.
Yep.
And the other guy is his name is Dave Bing. You guys will know who he is. A lot of people won't.
Yes.
He was a Piston. Obviously, he's still very influential in Detroit.
And his road roommate was
there. You go. Oh, yeah, you're right. So he grew in DC. He talked about in his book. He talked about Elgin Baylor being the legend in DC. He was like, nobody else. You come through there, you're competing for second place, right? Elgin Baylor was, and when Dr. J and Dave Bing, right? That good enough for me. Good enough for me right there. So those two guys, and some of these like 11-time All-Star, but he was 10 times first team. First team is different than first team is the best 5 dudes, which we just tried to do.
Yep.
The odd thing is when I first saw your question, and we need to honor Elgin Baylor, my answer is no, he's not. Because I think those who know the game, like Bill just broke down and said, yeah, he's got to be. Bill just put Kobe and Kareem on the bench, right? To me, the answer to your question is actually James Worthy, but that's for another podcast. I have a ridiculous love. James Worthy was phenomenal, and we didn't even mention him. We just talked about like 8 or 9 guys and didn't utter his name.
How ridiculous is that?
Right? How ridiculous. He could have went to any other team, and he's probably the greatest player in the history of the franchise on 15 teams in the league. Right?
Yes.
So my answer is actually James Worthy, because I in a sense of true underrated, wow, he got lost in that, and he just produced night in and night out at a very high level. But honoring Elgin Baylor is necessary. It is because he did things. Again, what Bill talked about, like I would say in the air. He was that dude who first started doing things in the air. Jordan did the switching hands. Elgin Baylor was doing that kind of crap 40 years before that. All the stuff Dr. J did, Elgin Baylor could do and was doing. He could post. He averaged 13 rebounds. He was complete. That's the best compliment. He was a complete player. He was as complete a player that's ever played in that league. 6'5", 6'4 and 3/4, 225. He could do everything. And he could do everything really, really well. That's Elgin Baylor.
Think of all the great big men that have played in Los Angeles, and still the leader career for the Lakers is Elgin Baylor in rebound. Nobody out rebounded Elgin Baylor in the history of the franchise.
6'4 and 3/4, 225. And you've got, right? That complete. Elgin Baylor was complete. And I didn't even talk about his career as a GM. And you're right. That's not even fair. You got to add that on. So I think he's getting the appropriate acknowledgement. I think he is clearly one of the top 50, which he was in on that franchise. Is kind of ridiculous. It's an interesting thing that on that franchise we benched Kobe and Kareem and didn't mention James Worthy. That is remarkable. That's remarkable.
Well, let's stay in that remarkable category, Demetrius, because I heard one of the most ridiculous statements that I've heard probably in the last 25 years, and that was Draymond Green saying that he's the best defender of all time. Now, maybe it's because I'm a little older than you guys, but I didn't put him in my top 35. It was hard for.
He's a very good defensive player, but he's not the best defender in the league. So no,
he's not. He's not in the top 50 of all time in the league to me. But then of course, like I said, I'm 74 years old, so maybe to you guys, he might.
Michael Cooper in his prime was a better defensive player. Like
we could run down a list.
Norm Van Leer.
Hold on, because I don't want you guys. Now I'm going to make it really hard on you, because
here we go.
Demetrius, I want you to give me 10 defenders that you think are better than Draymond, and then Bill, I want you to give me 10 more, not the same.
Wow,
but
really?
10 new ones.
Not fair. Bill can do it. It's not fair.
So
it's not fair.
So I'm going to get 10 from you, Demetrius, and 10 from Bill. So that's automatically, to me, that puts him out of the top 20. Let alone.
You have an agenda. You just want. You have an agenda. You just want to knock Draymond out.
Draymond. That's what this is about.
It's not that hard, though. Honestly, it's not that hard.
Muggsy Bogues was a better defender.
I mean,
than
don't get
Green.
ridiculous. Don't get ridiculous now.
I'm not getting ridiculous.
Okay, so all right.
Look at who Muggsy had to guard every night. Come on, think about it. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna first of all do a whole disclaimer, right? because I didn't hear the context of what he said. There is a difference between on the ball defender and then defensive impact. Because we talked earlier about college basketball, and I would say I could name 3 Pistons off the top of my head that were better defenders. To me, and I'm biased, my top defender ever, and this is like way out there, but you guys don't know him. He was on the early 80s Sixers team, Dr. J, Mo Cheeks, like Bobby Jones. Bobby Jones is in my top 5 for sure. Now, my true guy is Joe Dumars. Joe Dumars was Joe Dumars is right there for me. Now, right? So Joe Dumars is right there for me. I hate to say it. Scottie Pippen was a hell of a defensive player. He's better than Draymond. We talked about Norm Van Leer already. I'm trying to save Bill some. But then if you talk about defensive impact,
do what you got to do. I've got
I'm gonna go my defense. Like Kawhi can defend. It gets lost, but Kawhi can defend. Gary Payton's nickname was the glove. I'm just gonna leave that there. I'm gonna leave that there. But I'm not even talking about the bigs who dominated the game by rebounding. And if you think about the game correctly, we talked earlier about, I think it was Alabama. If I'm getting all the rebounds, I am essentially forcing you to play your best offensive game. In essence, I'm defending because I'm only giving you one shot and I'm getting the rebound. I think Kevin Garnett was a heck of a defender, like on the ball and from rebounding.
Yes.
Hakeem Olajuwon was as a big. Are you kidding me? Right? This is easy. And big fundamentals, Tim Duncan, right? And so I don't know how many I just named. I got to be close to 10 because I saved my favorite.
7 right now.
It's only 7?
That's only 7.
Really?
I can never give Michael Jordan any credit for anything because I'm a Piston fan. So we're not doing that. We're just not doing that. He is what he is. We're not doing that. You know what? I think AC Green was a fantastic defender for the Lakers. Oh, Michael Cooper. I'm gonna steal that one. Not Michael Cooper was a great defender. You know what? You got to count Dennis Rodman. He won 4 or 5 Defensive Player of the Year awards.
Yeah, you got to count.
You got to count Dennis Rodman. I think there's 3 Pistons between Joe Dumars, Ben Wallace. You can say because he won multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards. Correct. Dennis Rodman, Ben Wallace, and Joe Dumars. That's 3 Pistons that are better. And that's your automatic. Tim Dillon.
And that's your 10.
Wait. No. I don't really want to count. I left my favorite player. Like just one more. To me, the best defensive player ever. The best player ever, because I'm biased. It's not Kobe. It's not LeBron. It's not Michael Jordan. To me, Bill Russell is the greatest player in the history of this game. I will go into my grave saying Bill Russell, he's the greatest defensive player. He dominated the game. He dominated the game. He had 55 rebounds in a game. Yep. To me, that's the best stat in the history of that league. He had, think about how many shots had to be missed. He just got all the rebounds.
Well, at least
rebounds.
At least 55 were missed, right?
55 rebounds. I wonder who else got a rebound in that game, right? So yeah, Bill Russell is my top guy. But like I said, Rodman, Kawhi, Joe Dumars, there's Glove. There's so many guys. That's a ridiculous statement by Draymond. And I love Michigan State. Go Green. That's a ridiculous statement by Draymond. I'm sorry, man. I can't help you out with that one.
So you went the extra mile and gave us 12.
I think Bill should be able to count Bill Russell also. I think Bill Russell is so good he should count on both lists.
Here's what I will do. Man, I will break it into eras is what I will do.
Nice.
So that way I don't think I'll need Bill Russell because great defenders in his era. Okay. So I'm going to start modern and work back. Chris Paul, sort of lost in all love we have for him as a passer, is a terrific defensive player. Yep. And in his prime, he's still a good one, was a terrific defensive player. In his prime was a great one. Great defensive player. Could, obviously, even guys who were, had a couple inches in height in him, he still did a good job of stripping them. Great hands, read the play beautifully. Terrific. I'm going to call this guy not a modern guy, though he's coaching now, but Jason Kidd, right? Oh,
you're right.
I think Jason Kidd is number 2 all-time in steals, if memory serves me correctly. Just a terrific. And once again, he could defend small forwards. He could defend both guards, big guards and point guards. I got to mention LeBron. Like Draymond, but LeBron is a better defender. He wasn't always. Like early in his career, LeBron was just an okay defender. Yeah. But about halfway through his first year with the Heat, something clicked.
Yep.
He went from being an okay defender to one of the best defenders in basketball and stayed there since. Yep. So I guess some of that credit goes maybe to Spoelstra and I guess by extension, Pat Riley, but he's a terrific defender. KG, Kevin Garnett.
Yep.
I
think you mentioned Kevin Garnett, didn't you?
I did.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
Did.
Then scratch Kevin Garnett. Here's a guy who's a modern, in fact, a teammate of Draymond's at one point. Andre Iguodala. Is a top 5 or 6 defender in the league now. And will be a top 5 defender for his era, I think. And I'll go with one more modern guy. There's a few guys I really like, but I'm going to go with Trevor Ariza. Once again, a guy that sort of slept on. You mentioned guys were underrated or slept on. Very slept on, very underrated as an on-ball defender, and he can defend passing lanes. I've seen him defend power forwards, though it's not really what he's best at, but he can defend every small forward practically you can name. Well, most of the forwards you can name in the league. He's defended big guards and point guards and done it at a high level. I'm going to go back a generation to guys that played about an era before that. Isaiah Thomas, since you're talking about Pistons, everybody could defend on that bad boy Pistons team.
Yeah. Exactly.
It wasn't just Dumars was great. It wasn't just, I mean, everybody defended. Like, there were no bad defenders on that squad, and Isaiah was a terrific defender. At the time he retired, he was in the top 10 in steals. I think he's down in the teens now, but a terrific on-ball defender. And once again, a guy who was a menace in the passing lanes. He picked off a lot of passes in his career. Hakeem the Dream was mentioned. So, here we go. Alvin Robertson.
Oh, that's a great call.
Underrated as a defender.
That is a great call. Yeah.
Enormously underrated as a defender. Even going back to his days at Arkansas, right? When he was part of the whole 40 minutes of hell thing.
Yeah.
Took that 40 minutes of hell approach to playing defense with him into the NBA. I think he might have been different player of the year once or twice.
At least once or twice.
He deserved to be.
In Milwaukee,
he got screwed if he wasn't.
Yeah.
Because he was a terrific defender. He could defend 2 or 3 positions at a very, very, very high level. And a similar player was Fat Lever.
Yep.
In fact, they're kind of almost the same player.
Yeah, that's a good call.
I mean, to the point that if I probably could tell them apart if I saw them together, but like I lumped them together kind of in my mind because they were these combo. The term combo guard wasn't being used yet, but they were. That's what they were. If you had a really great point guard, they could play 2 guard for you. If you didn't have a great point guard, you had a 2 guard you liked, they could play point guard for you, and they defended their behinds off.
Yeah.
I'll mention a guy who was underrated as a defender, and once again, it's because of the Michael Jordan factors. Clyde Drexler. Clyde Drexler was a great defender. Sadly, we've sort of forgotten how great a defender he was. Once again, the Michael Jordan effect. Were there other 2 guards who played in that area? Yes, there were. And Clyde Drexler was great. He'll never get talk about underrated. He'll never get credit for how great he was because nobody will ever remember how great a player that Clyde Drexler was, specifically because of Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
He was essentially the exact same guy, but better. And so it's unfortunate that just all this Jordan shade was cast over like the growing crop that was, his greatness and sort of stunted that crop in the eyes of the public. But he was a tremendous player.
He was. I agree.
Okay. I got to go to that 76ers team. Now, you love Bobby Jones. He was a good defender. But in my mind, the best defender on those teams of that era was Mo Cheeks.
Mo Cheeks, yeah.
At one point, was probably the best defensive point guard in basketball.
Yep.
And he just gave people fits, including the aforementioned Isaiah Thomas. When he was talking about Jordan, he was like, that wasn't the guy that, I hated to face the most. I think he said it was Mo Cheeks.
Yeah,
the guy that he least enjoyed playing against.
You guys haven't mentioned the guy. Who was that guy that Kobe said he hated playing against? It was. It'll come to me before the end of the show, but it was Kobe's nemesis. It's the only guy that Kobe really mentioned as a defensive player that he felt that gave him fits. I'll think about it, but I'm
gonna throw one more guy from that era, and then I'll mention 1 or 2 guys from that, like way back. Another guy that got overshadowed and sort of got lost in the shade is Derek Harper.
Oh, yes,
such a good basketball player, and hardly. We talk about like there's some guys that were really great, but 15 years later, no one remembers them.
Yep.
I mean, like really, really great player, all around player. He was a great passer. Yep. He was a great defender. He could score if you needed him to score. And somehow people have just sort of wiped him from their mind.
Yeah.
It's sort of sad in a way. I'm going to go back now, right? So an era before that. So we were talking about nemesis, guys that guys hated to play. Both Kareem and Wilt mentioned this is a guy that they really did not enjoy playing against, Nate Thurman. Yeah. Nate Thurman was a defensive nightmare.
Right.
Great centers. He played in the golden age of centers, and they all agreed it sucked playing Nate Thurman.
He was a grown man. Nate Thurman was a grown man.
It was work. He was your daddy for that.
Right. It was work. That night you brought extra lunch because Nate was going to make you work.
Nate Thurman went against the greatest centers really the game has ever seen and gave them all. Maybe he didn't shut them all down, but he made them all earn it. None of them enjoyed it. All of them said, awful. Do I have to do that again? Really? Win in a few weeks? He was no fun. None to play against. Nobody wanted to see Nate Thurman coming. Yeah. It was a terrible experience. So Bill Russell's already been taken. Wilt was a terrific defender. I mean, Wilt obviously could score, but he was he's at the top or near the top in all the defensive categories that you would expect.
Yeah.
He terrific shot blocker, terrific rebounder, and a great position defender. When he faced the other great scorers of his era, he gave them some really tough nights. If you ask some of the great centers, ask Walt Bellamy, ask any of those guys what it was like to play against Wilt, and they'll tell you it was awful. It was a terrible, terrible experience. Wilt was early Wilt, young Wilt, in addition to being so big and so strong, could really run. He could really move. So even if you were a smaller center, if you were a 6'7", 6'8" guy, and you thought you were going to just, go to run away from him, nope. You weren't just going to out-athlete Wilt Chamberlain. That's not gonna work. That dog won't hunt.
Unless your name was Bill Russell, you could forget about that. It was like, no.
Well, I mean, he gave Russ some too. I mean, obviously not.
Yeah, but Bill usually came out, the best on it. I remember those days with Red with the scar and the two brothers on the wings. I mean, it was those were some very good Celtic teams. But
where am I? How many was that?
I believe that's 8.
I think you had
8. I got 2 more. Okay, I'm going to go, I guess, a little more modern and mention a couple of modern-ish big men. And one of them, of course, is very famous for his way of letting you know that he's denied you a chance to score. No. Get that out of here.
Not in my house.
Not in my house, right. I mean, obviously, that's the thing that everyone knows him for. But speaking of mobile big men, you would think he'd be all on the other side of the court. You think, I've got this layup. You go up, he's way over there, and then
LeBron before LeBron chased down. Where'd he come from?
Would come from places. There's no way a man 7 feet tall can get from there to nope. There he is. Like, how is that possible? Like, weak side shot blocking defined
exactly
Dikembe Mutombo.
In the dictionary, it's Dikembe.
No one is safe.
Right.
I mean, it was really, there were nights when I would be watching just Dikembe. Like, shot blocking is not usually that much fun to watch, but he made it fun.
Yeah.
And super impressive to watch a dude just eat people's shots.
He came out of Georgetown with 0 offensive game, and that guy developed.
Yeah.
It's impressive how much he developed. And to Bill's point, I think you look under the dictionary under weak side help, weak side support. It's a picture of Dikembe wagging his finger. That's what it is.
We will never see somebody that good at that again.
Nope.
Unfortunately, the game has changed in such a way.
So I guess right now, we can safely say if I had to give you both 5 more picks, we could probably get down to put him into the top 50 top. I mean,
you're not out of line. You're not out of line saying he might be in the 40s or 50s. We went easy. I think we were going off top of the head. If we did real research, and Bill pulled out some
get ugly if we did real research.
Right, Bill pulled out some
guys I've forgotten about,
like Lafayette Lever and Alvin Robertson. Those guys didn't even come to my mind. That's some deep stuff. He went real Carroll on you.
I'm mad at myself for not thinking of. Speaking of sort of poor man Michael Jordan, Ron Harper was a terrific.
Ron Harper, another one.
Yeah,
I'm mad at myself.
Ron Harper is another one. Ron Harper is a great one. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Draymond.
Michael Jordan wanted him because he didn't want to
play. Right, he didn't fail. In Cleveland, he was giving Michael Jordan the business.
He was like, "Let's get him on our team."
Yeah. Well, let's go the other way now. We went offense. Charles Barkley says that the Beard has become the best offensive player. Check out what I said now. In the world. Okay? In the world.
Okay, I want to start by saying, would you like to make a list of things that Charles Barkley has said in his life? Because I just want to point out to you, and I love Charles Barkley, and he's super entertaining. But he said some things, like things where you're like,
he said some things.
Right, he has said some things.
Go ahead. Come on.
I don't know the context of what he was trying to say. So is he just saying ability to score? But I don't care. Even then, I don't agree with it because as much as I don't like it, there's nothing Michael Jordan couldn't do with a basketball. It's just what? There's nothing LeBron James can't do with the basketball. I will give me Pistol Pete Maravich. I mean, we can do this. Between me and Bill, we can do this again if we need to. I'm sorry. James Harden's a really, really good basketball player. He is really good at playing basketball. But I think the question is like the old Bill Russell and World B. Flat did a series of commercials, Uncle Drew. And he says, one of my favorite lines ever, I gets buckets, right? If that's what we're talking about, is getting buckets. No, I'm sorry. Jordan can get buckets anytime he wants. He literally had to say, wait a minute. Me getting buckets doesn't get us championships. So let's do something different. Pistol Pete got buckets.
Without thinking hard, right? We just talked about Jordan. Wilt, right? We got to mention.
Exactly.
We just sort of threw flowers at the feet of the late, great Elton Baylor, who I promise you could, if he got defended, first of all, there's no three-point shot when Elton played. If he got defended the way they defend now.
Exactly.
How many points would he score?
Right,
40 a game? Right? Kevin Durant, is he still alive? Did Kevin die? Not here? Did no one tell me that Durant died? Jerry West, the freaking logo. Once again, if there was no three-point line, he's a guy that he had 1 year where he averaged damn near 40 with no three-point line.
Right, exactly.
What would he do with a three-point line? Oh my God.
How about a dude named Larry Joe Bird that played
Larry Joseph Bird? Yes, he wasn't too shabby.
Getting buckets.
Come on. Hey. I got to watch a skinny kid from a rough part of Newport News, Virginia, made his way.
Bubba Chuck.
Went to Bethel High School, played football, was a terrific football player, but was pretty good at basketball. He's down in Iverson. You think he couldn't score buckets?
Yep.
I mean, what are you talking about?
This one, and maybe, like I said, I didn't see the context of what Barkley was trying to say. But I'm sorry. If we're talking strictly getting buckets, I'm sorry. Will Chamberlain scored 100 points in a game.
What would Rick Barry do with a three-point line?
Right? Really?
Are you kidding?
It's kind of laughable because we're just doing this off the top of our head. We're not even trying right now. We're not even trying right now, and we just ripped off a dozen guys. Right.
Calvin Murphy with a three-point line.
Right. We're not even trying right now. It's crazy.
Did I mention Kareem? Yeah, does anyone mention Kareem? Kareem
just buckets.
Kareem scored points on someone now in his sleep. Kareem, oh my God. And he played against guys who could really play defense in the interior when he played.
Yeah.
Think of what you do to every center who's playing now. Who's the great defensive pivot? Who's the great defensive center now? Who's the best right now?
Right. Right. That guy doesn't exist. You know. Right. Exactly. Don't wish.
Kareem would score.
He's sitting on the bench, right? AD, right?
Kareem would abuse Anthony. I'm sorry. Anthony is really good at basketball. I'm sorry.
He couldn't stop Kareem.
You couldn't stop Kareem. Nobody can stop Kareem. I mean, you could. Robert Parrish and you can't stop Kareem.
Kareem
talking about
entered towards the end, the latter part of the golden age of the big man, but he still faced a lot. I mean, early in his career, he played against Wilt when he was still with the Bucks.
The Bucks. Yeah.
Played against Nate Thurman, something he definitely did not enjoy. He played against Unseld. He played against Cowan.
Exactly.
He played against Alvin Adams. He played against Bellamy. He played
Dan Issel. We played against
so many of the great centers,
right?
Bob Lanier. I mean, he played against all the best centers. Scored on the ball
and did one thing, got buckets. I hate to keep saying it. He got buckets on everybody. and by the way, because we slept on a guy and he just cried. Big O got buckets and assists and rebounds, but Oscar got buckets. I'm sorry. That's kind of, the more we talk, the more absurd that statement sounds.
Right,
we almost should just quit before we're calling Barkley names at this point. I'm at the point of calling them names because that's ridiculous.
Hey, well,
No, it's a great question, great topic. I love it when
man,
when I'm looking at Bill and I see the things just popping into his head, right?
Because
And we're just going back and
think
forth,
about
rattling off names.
Like guys are coming at me.
Right.
Now, some of these are guys from way back in the day, but man,
Sure.
if I think about guys like Chet the Jet Walker played
Exactly.
the present rules and the three and the not touching you anymore. I mean, these are guys who are putting up 20-something points a game when they could knock the crap out of you.
Right. When you can't even touch people now. He's taking 5 steps backwards and nobody can put a hand on him. And it's like, come on, that's absurd. You have to level it off with like the time.
Earl Monroe.
Exactly. Earl Monroe. What about that guy?
Hey, there's so many, like you said. I mean, it just depends upon which area you want to go back in, But
there was a dude that played for the Utah Jazz that got buckets for a long, long time. We didn't.
He's pretty good at scoring.
Karl Malone got buckets.
He's
in the top 5, I think, somewhere up there.
Yeah,
there's just too many guys.
There.
Yeah,
he's up there.
I mean, we could get real old school and tricky and start talking about like Alex English. Alex
Oh,
English was unstoppable, right?
Yes.
We had Adrian Dantley with the Pistons. Adrian Dantley was unguardable. In his prime, you couldn't guard Adrian Dantley.
Well,
he got bucket.
Of all the guys who's named, he's the one who's most like Harden, right? Kind of a 6'5" chubby dude.
Exactly.
Doesn't seem very athletic, but is somehow just scoring on you.
Got to the basket. Right.
Exactly. How did this little fat dude hang 36 on me?
All right. But that's what it was. And we've left guys off. We didn't talk about Dirk. Dirk was one of the best shooters ever. Right? We didn't talk about Dominique Wilkins. You want to talk about getting buckets? We want to talk about getting buckets. Right. So it's such an absurd. It's Patrick Ewing we didn't mention. We didn't talk about Reggie Miller. Ray Allen. Bucket getters, man. We didn't even try, and this was so absurd. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, I'm going to give you. I'm going to throw another little softball here out to you.
This is great.
Lou Williams. He passed the 15,000 career point mark.
Yes.
And has the most points off the bench ever. But
hot wing enthusiast.
Well, but there's a couple things here. First of all,
he likes a couple things, as we know.
As he passed Jamal Crawford and Manu as the best 6 man, and then to top it all off, he gets traded today. So that's good. I just set the record. So, Demetrius, you want to start off?
So the Atlanta Hawks, Atlanta's a good city for Lou, right? Lou can do some things in Atlanta, but that's not what this podcast is about. I'm sorry. What I'm gonna tell you is that I feel like I don't know him. I've never met him. I know very little about him. I'm proud of Lou Williams. This dude has just gotten it done, right? He has made a ton of money, right? Yes. Never been a superstar, probably never been the best player on his team. We just ran off a list of dudes that get buckets, by the way. Lou Williams gets buckets. Yeah. Lou Williams is in the best league, and he gets them quick. He gets them like per minutes. Lou is right there.
He's up there.
He's that dude that knows how to put the basketball into the little rim. That's just what he does. And he's really good at it. He has made a career. He has made a ton of money. He probably can take care of his kids. And he just keeps getting. Lou isn't even 35. Lou Williams is going to do this for another 4 or 5 years because he can do the thing that you need to be able to do in that league to keep a job. He gets buckets. When you get buckets, they're going to find a way. Somebody's going to find a way to get you on the floor. There's at least 5 or 6 teams where Lou Williams is one of the best 2 or 3 players. Atlanta is probably one of them, quite frankly. Yep. You're one of the best. And when you can create your shot and just, hate to keep saying it, play and get buckets, somebody's going to find a way to get you in the rotation. And that's what Lou Williams is. He can score the basketball, period. And when you can do that, somebody in the NBA is going to pay you a lot of money to score the basketball. That's what Lou Williams is. That guy has made a lot of money and built a great career. I'm happy for him that he keeps cashing checks and he keeps getting buckets.
Well, this was a trade that I was not for. I kind of felt this trade here to me was the, and I hate to go back to a boxing analogy, but this was kind of like the Amir Khan fight. I see no reason why you would trade Rondo
Right.
for Lou Williams. That's, I mean, even on the Clippers. So my thought on this is, like I said, I would have went with Lou Williams, especially when you're talking about, a possible championship run, somebody that's constantly, consistently putting up points. Rondo's jumper is about as consistent. Well, maybe it might be a little more consistent than mine now because I'm going to shoot mine in a little closer. But that's another story. What was your thoughts here, Bill? I mean, Lou scores over 15,000 points, and then you trade him for Rondo for your championship stretch. I mean, maybe I'm looking at things a little wrong here, but I don't see where you make that much improvement on your team bringing in Rondo and giving up Lou.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes a guy's a late acquisition, and he's Robert Horry, right? He's the piece, right? He's the thing that puts you over the top. They're also a great sixth man. Since we're talking about great sixth men, Robert Horry, right? But I mean, do I like Lou Williams? Sure. I mean, he's easy to like to some extent. If I remember correctly, Drake referred to him by name in his song.
He did. He did. Right. Yeah.
Yep. He's a guy that really, like I said, can score without. I believe there have been 7 non-starters, 6 men, whatever, who have averaged 19 points per season, and he's one of them. So that tells you something about his ability to score.
Yeah.
He is a specialist to a certain extent. You don't get everything from Lou Williams, or at least not everything you would get from a star, a true star, but he is really good at the things that he does. And he's going to help, especially that second unit. We talk about that, right? Some teams, when they have to rest guys, the team goes this way, right? And some teams, they have to rest guys, the team goes this way. Like when the starters come back, oh, wow, we had a 2-point lead. Now we've got a 12-point lead. This is great, right?
Yeah.
He can be part of that second unit that adds to the lead. So that's the thing, the big value of a guy like Lou Williams is that if he's your sixth man, you've got a good team.
Right.
He went to the Hawks.
Well, the trade really is Tyronn Lue getting Rajon Rondo back. The trade is really about the Clippers needing somebody on the floor they can trust in a big game. And Tyronn Lue, he trusts Rajon Rondo because of their history.
And you should, yes.
And you can't.
He's incredibly trustworthy.
So I don't think it was a deal where we got to get rid of Lue. Yeah, right. I think it's about Rondo, the trade. And Lue just, if I'm Atlanta, you got to give me something back. Right. And
right.
Lue can score.
Right.
Yeah,
he's going to be great for the local economy, if you know. So yes, I agree that it's a win all the way around.
It is.
But I think you asked if he passed Crawford and who else?
Manu.
Ginobili.
Well, the short answer is no. Both those guys. Crawford is closer because that's one guy who's sort of more of a specialist. Manu Ginobili could do some of everything.
He did.
Manu Ginobili could rebound. He could play defense. He could play point guard in a pinch. I mean, there wasn't a thing that Manu couldn't do that a guy roughly his size could do in basketball. He could do all that stuff. Yep. So that's not Lou Williams. No offense to Lou. He's not a guy that can do pretty much everything a guy that's 6'7" can do in basketball. He can do the thing he does. And Jamal Crawford's closer, but Jamal Crawford is an even better shooter. They both can shoot, but Crawford's an even better shooter. Jamal Crawford is probably the best sixth man I've seen since, I don't know, Ricky Pierce in his prime. I'm trying to think. Vinnie Johnson. Yeah. The aforementioned Michael Cooper. Yeah. Maybe, John Havlicek probably is above him, but he's what Jamal Crawford's one of the great sixth men I think in the history of the game. Yeah, I absolutely believe that. And Lou's good, like really good. Like he's in the top 10 probably in the history of the game, but is he the best? No.
I don't think so. I think he just rattled off a list of names that gonna be tough.
Well, guys, once again, you have proved that my time management skills suck. And you know,
and we're not mad at you for it. By the way. Nobody here is mad. I don't know who's mad, but it's not either one of us.
Because I'll be honest, I'm still bringing up guys that I think could score better or more consistently or more. James Harden, they're still floating to the surface of my consciousness. To be perfectly
Those
honest.
two between Draymond and the beard, that was great.
I gotta admit that that's not where I'm not worried about that. I'm still like, oh man, I can't believe I didn't mention. Like, there's still, I mean, I'm still fighting with myself. Guys, like,
come on, guys. Don't make me drop him out of my top 75.
I'm just gonna say this and then I'm gonna stop. It's close in my mind between he and Carmelo Anthony. It's close.
Well, I'm thinking that I could probably name at least
prime 20. Carmelo versus prime Harden.
I think I'd take Carmelo. Prime Carmelo had a complete offensive arsenal.
Yep.
Prime Carmelo was complete. Yeah.
And is James Harden any better now than he was when he was, in Oklahoma City with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook?
He is.
He's better, and his responsibilities have changed.
Right.
So he would have been on that list of the great sixth men in history if he continued to be a sixth man.
Exactly.
But he was a terrific sixth man. In fact,
yeah.
I fell in love with him as a sixth man.
I actually liked his temperament better as a sixth man too. He was more, even though he didn't want to be, he was sort of, I guess you could say, if there was a time, he was more of a team player then. Got to make a quick plug. Any of you guys on Clubhouse?
Not currently, but I could be.
Give
me a reason. Give me a reason.
Well, I mean, there's some great sports people on there. I was actually on I had one call today, room today where it had Maurice Suleiman, Jackie Callan, and Joe Frazier's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on a room with politics that had to do with Reverend Al Sharpton was in the room. A lot of celebrities and a lot of different viewpoints. Of course, there's just like everything else, there's a lot of nuts too. So you gotta kind of go through just like you do with Facebook and everything else.
Yeah.
But guys, as usual, like I said, my time management skills aren't worth a damn, but we always have fun. So let's start. Bill, you want to give us your final thoughts for the evening? And I know you guys got some mock drafts and whatnot coming up, so you might as well tell us about those too.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on. I'm going to talk about some of the things we just sort of mentioned earlier today, including the late Elgin Baylor. And because, as we said before, he was one of the greatest players in the history of the game. But as his career was ending, the NBA was the NBA was born right after World War II. Right. So we have this thing, and it's a second-tier sport, quite frankly. I mean, college basketball is more popular than pro basketball for the first 10 or so years that pro basketball exists, by far. It's behind football. It's way behind. Like baseball is not even not even close. Like basketball is way back. Boxing was bigger than pro basketball at the time. Heck, horse racing was a little bigger than pro basketball. So he enters the league's only been around like about 10 years when he enters the league, right? So the league is founded 46, 47, something like that. Yeah. So he enters the league literally like 10, maybe 11 years after even the 59-60 draft, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So
maybe.
So the league's about 10, 11 years old, basically. Maybe a dozen at the most years old. Television is in its infancy. I mean, television exists, but television sports isn't the juggernaut. It is.
Right.
It was regional.
It was
very regional.
It was regional.
Right. Right. And in those days, I mean, even the poorest people in America have access to television, pretty much. Not in those days.
Yeah.
If you were poor, you didn't have a television. Not in 1958, 59, 60. You know, my father, you know, used to go to a neighbor's house to watch television, you know, right?
Friday night fights. Come on over.
Right. I mean, that was where the fight party or the whatever party kind of got started because everybody had a TV in those days. So that's one reason that there's not this sense of his greatness. And like I said, I talked about this stuff, and his own approach, his own personality was a big part of that as well. And he was a groundbreaker in terms of being a Black executive. I mean, now, thankfully, we have a lot of Black, especially in the NBA at least, a lot of Black executives, a decent number, a good number. You know, it could be a better number, but it's a good number in terms of Black executives in the NBA. When he was becoming a Black executive in the NBA, the number was not good. The number was bad. And of course, younger fans, that's how they know him. They know him, oh, you know, there he is at the draft, right? That's how they know Elgin Baylor. You know, picking first overall or whatever, winning the lottery or that kind of thing for the Clippers. So his career, and once again, you know, you probably got to see him live, James. I just missed him, right? By a few years. His career ended a few years, but probably about really 3 years, 4 years before I started watching basketball. My father watched him quite a bit. My father was a Philadelphia Warriors fan before they made their way out west to Golden State. But he got to see Elgin Baylor a couple of times live, you know, in the old, was it the Spectrum? What was it? Where was it they played?
It was before the Spectrum.
It was before the Palestra? My dad's unfortunately dead, so I can't ask him. But he went to see them, and it was affordable, apparently, in those days. Affordable, you know, by, I guess, even the standards of, you know, 1963, 64. When he was living in Philadelphia, he got to see them when they played the Warriors. And, you know, the thing he kept talking about was his gracefulness, just how graceful he was. And that extended to his dealings off the court. Everyone I've ever heard who's met him and talked to him, been around him, talks about what a graceful person he was, like a person who's full of grace, not just in the way he moves, but in the way he moves through life. He treated people well. He was unafraid to stand up for himself, but when he did it in a way that didn't leave a bad impression somehow. Like he managed to disagree with people without being disagreeable. He managed to bring people to see that, you know, certain things needed to change. And he pushed for change in the league. Like that's not talked about, in my opinion, talked about enough, is what a catalyst for change he was in the NBA's front offices, right? Which were, when he first began moving towards a front office, was an extremely white place, right? It was a very, very white place at the time. And now there's a decent sprinkling of people who are not white in the NBA's front offices. That's at least in part due to Elgin Baylor. So we're talking about, I think, one of the top 10 players in the history of the game. I think one of the most important people after his career when he goes into integrating or helping to integrate the front offices. And on top of that, from everything I've heard, he was also just an extremely nice, caring person. Yeah. So we've lost quite a bit when we lose a person like Elgin Baylor. And I hope younger fans, people who obviously couldn't have seen him play, but may not even remember him as an executive if you're young enough, I guess. Please talk to older relatives. Please get on YouTube or whatever it is you do where you find and watch who he was as a player and then learn about who he was as a trailblazer and as a man. Rest in power, Elgin Baylor. You are going to be missed.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Dimitri, your final thoughts for the evening, my man. As always, good having you here. And hey, I guess it's just we can just talk, man.
This is a staple of my Thursday night. Anytime I get to sit, and I'm just gonna be honest, I compliment him probably too much during the podcast. I enjoy talking to Bill Carroll so much I can't even tell you. He did me the honor of having me on his draft podcast last weekend. It was amazing, as I expected it. We probably could have done an hour easily because it's that easy. And this whole thing is because of you, Mr. King. So I will always express to you, thank you for getting me involved in this, because this is awesome. Because in a world where we all work and we have real jobs and real stuff is going on, I got my second shot today. So I'm ready to act responsibly in about 10 days. I'm good to go. But I get to do what I love. It's talking sports. And every Thursday night from 8 to 10, I get to chop it up with you guys. And it is an absolute pleasure. So with that said, in our last opportunity in Women's History Month, I want to recognize who I feel, and we can have discussions. We can talk Nancy Lieberman and Lisa Leslie, and there are others. We can talk Cheryl Miller. For me, Cheryl Denise Swoops is the greatest women basketball player of all time. Woo! Now today she turns 50, and I thought that is. I would like to read her. We don't have that kind of time. I gotta be honest. If I were to try and read her accomplishments, you would be like, man, let's go. I mean, and by the way, there's for sure 3, maybe 4 seasons before the WNBA even kicked off after she left Texas Tech. Cheryl Swoops is phenomenal. I mean, very similarly, like she probably isn't known. And there's Shamiqua Holesclaw and Tarasi, and there's some great women players right now. To an individual, sit them down and ask them. They're going to talk about Cheryl Denise Swoops. I guarantee you. She was amazing. She I think might have been the first openly gay woman in that league, but she certainly helped blaze a trail for that. But on the basketball court, there was literally nothing Cheryl Swoops couldn't do. She was phenomenal. And like I said, the numbers, the list is too long. 4-time NBA champ, 6-time All-Star, 5-time All-First Team, 2 times All-Second Team. I have to read them. I couldn't remember. It's too many. And I was like, wow. She's obviously in the Basketball Hall of Fame, deservedly so. Gold medals in 3 Olympic competitions, deserved every one of them and more. World Cups, Goodwill Games. She's done it all. She did it all. She
Naismith Player of the Year when she was in college.
Exactly. Just any accolade you can think of, she did it. She has it. Her trophy room is big. I mean, she's got a trophy house. She probably has a second house to keep all her stuff, right? That's how good she was. And today she turns 50, and big ups to her for everything on and off the court. I think that in honor of what women have always had to, the whole adage of had to do more to get half as much kind of thing. She did it all. She did it all. And talk to somebody who knows the game of basketball. And right here, my litmus test is right here. As soon as I said her name, he started nodding his head. Once he affirms it, I know I'm good. And it might be debatable. There's some names, right, that I didn't mention that we can talk about those people. Like I said, Nancy Lieberman, unbelievable, right? Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, pound for pound, as they like to say. I think Cheryl Swoops over any of them, with any of them, right?
She was basically that league's Jordan.
Exactly.
She was Defensive Player of the Year. There wasn't anything she couldn't do.
Yeah. She definitely has to be right up there among the.
She's on the Mount Rushmore. She's on the Mount Rushmore female basketball players.
Oh yeah, question. Cheryl's on that.
Yeah,
I agree on Lieberman. I got to see her play a lot live because I lived right close to Old Dominion's campus. I remember I watched that team with Rhonda Rombola and Ing Nissen and Angela Kaufman, there was this Canadian woman who made the Olympics in 2 different sports. Her name was Janet Tremblay. She was on their Olympic basketball team. She played she made their team handball or something like that Olympic team. But yeah, that Old Dominion team was a juggernaut. Yeah. Watching with Nancy Lieberman. Then she went on to be, great overseas, and then eventually here. But yeah, I mean, how do you? But Cheryl Swoops is where you start.
Yeah, happy birthday, Cheryl. Happy birthday, Cheryl Swoops, for sure. So,
all right, guys, let's get out of here. I'll see you all next Thursday.
Absolutely.
Demetrius, did you give us your social media before you left?
Oh, plug the Roar podcast.
There you
coming
go.
Up in about 10 days. Special guest on my pre-draft podcast, the one and only Mr. Bill Carroll will be joining me and my producer to go over the Lions strategy. It will I have to find a way to differentiate it because we nailed everything on his podcast. So my producer.
Well, here's how we'll differentiate it. So what we'll do this time, as opposed to just doing a mock, we're going to rank team needs. So
there we go. Yep.
And then we'll talk about sort of scenarios. So we sort of avoided thinking about who would be available.
Yeah.
This time we'll do that. We'll talk about at this point in the draft who's still actually available.
Yeah.
And then we'll have like a couple of players that might fit that need when we rank the team needs.
Yeah. So you can find the Roar podcast, the free agency edition, on YouTube, on our Facebook page, on SoundCloud. You can find that now. We dropped that last week. And in about 10 days, we got the pre-draft pod with our special guest. So look for that too.
All right, guys. I'll see you all next week. And
right,
all I can tell you to do is listen, because we don't know when we're going off the air. But hey, it'll be fun while we're here. So
exactly.
Have a great night, fellas.
Appreciate you.
Have a great night, and I'll talk to you next week.
All right.
This is from the
See you
Sports
soon.
Crib. See you next week, all.
Take care.